do it.
Hello. Welcome, people. I guess it's catching up. I was what is under my shirt, and then he dropped the video just now. B Davis in the building. I see you said Rob with the fresh edge cut. You threw me off, bro, because I was like, can they see us already? I didn't hit the button yet. Chips and guac, my man Will is first in the building. I appreciate you. B Davis, I'm gonna slide over there and check out that video. My auntie is in the building. Sage Marie, coffee and tea. It takes a while to catch up, baby.
Yeah, it does take a little bit. It does take a little bit
Yeah,
to
we
catch
got
up.
a
For
little
some reason,
lag.
it's just
Yeah, we got a little lag. It'll catch up. But what was I saying? Sage Marie. Yeah, my auntie's in the building. Sage Marie, coffee tea. Auntie, we gotta talk about these shirts, okay? Because this shirt
What's
feels
up, Clausen? How y'all
this
doing?
shirt feels
How's
amazing.
everybody doing?
Clausen World's in the building. And TT's Urban Pantry just popped in. That's what I'm talking about.
What's
Hey
up? What's
TT,
up?
how you doing? Yeah, guys. So let's go ahead and get this started. I got my man FarmerQ with me here today.
What's up? What's up?
Um,
Glad to be here.
yeah, and the topic of the day is men in the garden. Now that's not to say that I haven't had men on the channel thus far as gardeners, but today we're gonna do things a little different. Well, I aim to do them a little different anyway. Uh, we're gonna treat it a little different. I'm gonna borrow something from my buddy Ben Hicks. I was over on his channel last Friday. I co-hosted his show with him. It's called The Average Joe Lawn Care Show. Go check that out. It was a pretty good time.
I'm
Not
gonna
too
have to check
long.
that out for sure.
Yeah, it's not too long, but we had a good time. We had a kickback. But the whole idea over there is, you're more so of a co-host rather than you're interviewing sort of thing. But we're still going to go along with my regular program schedule. I want you guys to know who FarmerQ is, what he does, where he's from. We already kind of know what he's passionate about, but we're going to find out what drives him. And then we're going to shift gears and we're just going to kick back and talk gardening, people. We're going to talk about what he's up to, some of his practices, his techniques he puts in play. I'm going to talk about mine. You guys can ask questions, help drive this conversation. We're just going to kick back and have a good time. Oh, yeah. And I have FarmerQ's old. He's like 80 years old already. So over in his cup,
Yeah,
I almost guarantee he has a double shot of espresso.
man. Oh my gosh, he knows me so well already. I just woke up from a nap, literally, probably about 30 minutes ago. I got my
This dude
coffee.
is always waking up from a nap. Always getting it from a nap. All right, my bad. Go ahead. You said you was just waking up for a nap. My bad.
Oh yeah. Oh no. Like I'm good. I'm good. But it's
Yeah.
just funny because you hit the nail on the head with that one.
Yeah, I knew you was. Me, on the other hand, I do not have coffee. I racked off a batch of wine today. It is very young, as you can see. It is not pretty, but it tastes good. It tastes young. Uh, by young, I mean there's still a lot of gas still on there, carbon dioxide, and it's pretty acidity still.
A lot of the lactobacteria is still working on that thing.
Yeah, but it was his first racking, and it's actually right over here. I'm gonna tuck it away in my little wine reservoir later on today. But I figure I steal a little bit to see how it's going along. So we had some new people pop. Well, we had some other people pop in. We got Gardner 99, One Love. Hey, how you doing, brother? Appreciate you
Hey,
being here. V Williams, good afternoon. Grow something. That's what I'm talking about. Grow something. Hashtag grow something. What are you doing with your life? Maureen Williams. Hey, how you doing, love? Thank you for being here. Apartment Gardener. That's what I'm talking about. Seeing you over at Les. Yeah, I was checking in on Led, see what he had going on before I started my own live. I'm sure he's still live. Thank you for being here, though. I appreciate you. V Williams was just at the Greenhouse Lounge too. Yeah, he's over there talking about sweeteners, healthy
what's up,
sweeteners.
broke farmer? What's up, broke farmer?
Yeah. Oh yeah, and Broke's in the house. My bad, cuz. My bad.
Now,
My
hey,
bad, cuz.
it's weird. Like I'm starting to finally understand how this lag stuff works, and I'm realizing how the commenting works and everything. And it's like, golly, this stuff the timing's so off. It just makes it kind of funny to reply to people
Yeah,
and
it
stuff.
does. Yeah, it's a good 20-second to 40-second lag, guys. But it's all good. It's kind of like watching live TV. It gives us enough time to hit the end stream if something go down.
Hit the panic button.
but all is well. So yeah, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get Farmer Q on the stage. Farmer Q, tell the people who you are, where you're from, where they can find you, what you're all about, what drives you, and then we'll start from there. I think that's a good place.
All right, perfect. Well, as our friend Turf Therapy said here, I'm Farmer Q, known as Lioncrest Outdoors Gardening on YouTube here. I was born in Greenville, Mississippi, kind of raised my younger years there. I'm not going to go into my whole life story, but I'll kind of give y'all the brief on it or not. We can get real long with that. But but was born in Greenville, Mississippi, was raised out there until I was in kindergarten, went out to Virginia Beach, stayed on the East Coast until I was in the 5th grade, then migrated out to Memphis, Tennessee from the 5th grade all the way up to about the 8th grade, then went to Horn Lake, which is about 30 minutes south of Memphis. Went there till the 10th grade. Then I found myself in Texas where I am now. And my journey's taken me a few places in life and everything, but Texas is where the heart is now at this point. I got to Texas in my junior year in high school, graduated here, went to college out here. Gosh, I love me some Texas, boy. And I've been to a few more states and everything, but got to come back home to Texas. And this is where home base is going to be and everything. So that's me. That's a little bit of me in a nutshell.
Okay, yeah. So I see you got fur baby in the background. I didn't know you had a fur baby. You know, I got mine.
Oh yeah, whenever I do stuff on live and whenever I start talking, they all want to come and be a part of the party and everything. So
mine was just
chilling
in here too. They was in here the last time I was live, and the my female queen, she has separation anxiety, so she like wanted to be in my lap for a little while. So I picked her up, and then she ran about and went ahead and did her thing. So how long have you been gardening, Q?
Man, I've been gardening for about 13 years now. 13 years now.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm 28. So 13
that was my
years.
next question. You already got, okay. So yeah, babe, I told you he wasn't over 30. He just act like he 80, just like you. So yeah, 13 years. 13 years. That's a long time to be gardening, bro. So what got you started? Why? Why'd you start gardening?
When I was young, when I was visiting Mississippi every summer, because when I was in Virginia Beach, I would visit Mississippi every summer like clockwork. And I would be down there for every bit of 3 months. And a little bit of history about Greenville, Mississippi, more specifically Leland, Mississippi, because that's where my grandparents reside at this moment. It's just this old timey, slow moving, creek running through the town type town, population of, man, can't be more than 2,000. And that's consistent through the years. That's like a cap right there. But
no more.
But went out there every season, and my granddad, he always was on tractors. He always was putting me on the tractor. Hey, play with this, do that. Don't worry, you can mess this up, whatever, it doesn't matter. Because he told me this later, but he always saw something in me, like, because I always just worked with my hands, always liked to do stuff, always a busybody, just always been like this. And he would put me on that tractor, and before you know it, I was doing his job for him while he would sit there and just talk with his buddies. That's my grandson right there at 7 years old on the tractor doing the work.
That's how they like to do it back then,
right? So that's where I got started. And then, as you know, you hit your preteen years and everything. Video, especially our age, the age of crop that I come from, the generation I'm from, got to the video game age and everything and just left. I was like, nope, I don't want nothing to do with the farm. Don't want nothing to do with outside. Just want to sit. Actually, I was kind of always passively outside, but I just didn't really want nothing to do with having a job outside. I wanted to either play outside or play inside. I was just about that play life at that time. So that's just being a kid for you.
Hey, yeah, I can relate. Even when I went down south, they used to take me out. It was part of my chores. I'd go out there, work. I wasn't really paying attention to learning anything. I just wanted to hurry up and get it done so I can get back to playing. So I can relate for sure.
Hey, and it's all part of the development, but I think that coming into my teenage years, we start moving around a lot. And that's like I said earlier in the story, that's when I started to kind of bounce around. 10th grade went here, 8th grade went here, 10th grade went there. So I kind of had to start to pay attention to my surroundings a little bit more for my own mental security. And that's reflective of now, me looking back then, because I wasn't sitting there thinking those thoughts at that point, obviously. But right. But passively, I was doing those things. I was separating myself, becoming comfortable with solitude, being able to get in my quiet space and really just get in the lab and work. And that's where I developed that work ethic, is when I started moving around a lot and really didn't have access to all those. I had access to play stuff, but it was just, I could tell it was fake. I could tell that everybody was starting to latch on to vanity and things like that at that age. And I never was about, I've always been an old soul. Always.
Always. I believe that too. You ain't got to listen. I believe you. You ain't got to prove it. You already prove it with all your naps. You take about 3 naps a day. So,
hey, I'm gonna be caught up by the time I get older, right? By the time I get older, maybe the naps slow down a little bit. I'm reversing. I started
by
young.
the time you hit 40, 50, nap time should be over. You should be but no, that's cool, man. So, and that's a common trend, and it works both ways, right? I was actually talking to Gigi a few days ago, and we were talking about her history as far as her gardening, and it goes both ways. And I think part of it, I think I could relate to her in that way. You're exposed to it as a child, and then we find ourselves trying to get back to our roots, so to speak. Like our friends over there, back to our roots, the actual channel, but we find ourselves getting back to our roots, and sometimes I ask myself, like, why do I have to get back to my roots? Like, why did I forget? And from some spaces in some communities, gardening reminded them of a negative time. It was a negative headspace, so they didn't force their children or their siblings or their offspring to get out there and work with them, so to speak, every single day. Like, of course, they drug you along when they needed the extra hand. But outside of that, I think a lot of them didn't force it on us because the world was changing. They saw the world changing, and they thought maybe it was changing for the better, I would assume. And they didn't press that on us. They kind of like, I guess a good way to compare it to is people who come from other countries, and the first generation and the second generation spoke the other language of the country they came from. But then the parent decides to stop speaking or teaching the native language because they want their children to focus on adapting American culture. But that's a kind of contradictory statement in itself, because us being a melting pot, I think American culture is embracing and accepting all other cultures, which is a wonderful topic to be talking about today on this observance day of MLK's birthday. So I just thought that was unique. I thought that was pretty cool just to actually think about that and put that in perspective. So hearing your story, hearing the similarities with everyone I brought on the channel so far thus yet, it's really cool to just see the dynamic that strands across all of these different family lines, and to see some people that really took to it, some people that kind of had to, some people that didn't have to, but eventually found their way back to it. So I think that's really dope. So gardening for 13 years, you came from Mississippi. You've been in Texas. You're a big Texas boy. I have no complaints for that. I think Texas is one of the dopest states out there, because Texas, I remember my uncle, right? My uncle, he was a truck driver. And every once in a while I have these memories of him throwing me in the truck with him and taking me on these road trips with him. And I remember as a kid, right, each time we would cross over the state line, he would mention, yeah, we're in Louisiana now. And I'm like, all right, cool, Louisiana. I get up, I start looking around. Awesome. Yeah, cool. Distinctively, though, we would land in Texas. I remember this so vividly. We would get in Texas. Okay, we in Texas now. All right, this is sun time, right? The sun's still out. We're in Texas. I'm looking around. I fall asleep. I wake back up and I say, where are we at? He said, we still in Texas. I was like, how are we still in Texas, bro? So Texas is huge. And you can experience all 4 seasons out there if you go far enough south and far enough north. So I think that's pretty cool. I like that state. I really like the state as far as their military benefits. That's the state that one of the states that was on the line as far as retiring in. The wife and I, we decided it was too far away from the family, so we kind of scratched it off the list for the time being. But if things change, Texas would definitely be top on my list. Yeah, so I'm a big fan of the Big T. Yeah, and I know you are too, Clausen.
Wasn't that your stomping ground a little bit? Like, wasn't that your stomping ground?
Yeah, I used to live on the border of Killeen and Harker Heights when I was stationed.
That's where my brother is right now. That's where my brother is right
get out of here.
now.
That's crazy. So when I was stationed at Fort Hood, I used to live the W.S. Young exit, right across the street from the what is it called? Like the convention center, right across the street from the convention center. And if your brother's there, and I hope it's still there, there's a butcher right across the street, right at that corner. When you make that right, you come off the highway. I can't remember what highway that is right now. You come off that highway, and the In-N-Out Burger is on that exit. The Specs is on that exit. You make that right. You take that right going away from the mall. You head up to where the convention center is. At that intersection, there is a butcher. They sell fresh eggs. They fresh meats, cuts, and all that.
Oh, wow.
That place is fire. Tell him to go there, get his meat from that place. It's really good, and the eggs there. I'm talking about, you crack the egg and the orange is so bright it'll blind you.
Oh man,
yeah,
that's so nice.
Yeah.
See my brother, he's a city boy, but he likes country boy things, which is funny. So he'll probably appreciate that little drop.
Yeah, no, and I think you and your cousin and I can relate to him on that. You know, I was born in the South. I don't know if I've ever told y'all that before, but I was born in Walterboro, South Carolina. Within a month of me being born, my parents moved up north into the DMV area. Maryland was, I think Virginia actually was the first stop. It wasn't Maryland. Virginia was the first stop. Then we went to Maryland. Then we ended up in DC. So I hit all of the DMV.
A lot of similarities then.
Yeah. So I grew up in the city, but every summer I would go down south and spend my summer with my cousins, with my grandparents, and all of my grandparents. They gardened, they farmed of some sort. They produced something on their land to feed their family or to sell to help support their family. So I'm very familiar with it, although I didn't learn anything other than make sure you wash your hands vigorously after picking peppers all day before you use the bathroom. Yeah, learn that lesson.
No, hey, that's a solid piece of advice right there. I think they steered you in the right direction.
Well, steering me in the right direction, it was more like laughing at me after I did it. But nevertheless, I learned my lesson, and I never did or will do that ever again. It's just that.
Oh yeah.
So,
hey, but I think we're like so me being 28, I think everyone being all the way up to even like 40, I say we're all I guess you can call it generation of the technological era, but at the same time, we have the opportunity to rein in a new garden era. Like, okay, yeah, you said for better or worse, or they thought for better at the time, and I think they were on the right thought path generally, but I think that you have to go through the rain to get to the sunlight as far as certain situations and things go like that. And gardening, we have a job to do. Us people who are very technologically sound within this generation, who have these aptitudes and have these skills, we have to share it with people, because we have the chance to make this thing that seems bad into something that's great. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm excited.
Right.
I got a fire lit under me.
Me too. Hey, BB. Hey, how you doing? Thanks for being here. Roro Latrice, that's a new name. Is that one of yours right there? One of your subscribers? Hey, how you doing? Happy that you're here. Wherever you came from, I'm happy you're here.
We're glad you're here. Glad
the
you're
lawn
with us.
in life. What's going on, brother? I gotta go check out that video with you and your son. I saw you posted it, the lawn in life junior or something like that. I gotta go check it out. You said, hey, Turf, if more people get out and worked in the garden or forums like we used to, we'd be too tired to participate in foolishness going on in the world right now. I agree.
Hey,
the long life. I agree. I'm gonna tell you what, my cousin, and she was being funny, but I think I know she was being serious at the same time. And she said something like, hashtag 2021 goals, be unbothered like Robert. You know what I mean? So like, I'm gonna let you know something. All of last year, I did not watch any public media distribute, as far as like publicly distributed news outlet. I still kept up with the news. I read it, but I didn't watch it because it just shifted my aura entirely too much. So I made sure that I digested that information in
he said he don't like that priming.
Yeah, in a safe place where I could, where I was okay and I was in the right headspace. I was in the right time in the right moment to read up and make sure that I stayed, well educated and engaged, but Definitely. At the same time, do it at my leisure and don't let certain things steer me any type of way. I believe I said,
you got to find your footing.
Of course, find my footing, find my ground, and then shift from there. Be able to maneuver. And once I'm anchored, then I move freely. You know, hey BB, hey, how you doing? Make sure my gates are guarded. Let's say that. How about that? T Moore, T Moore, hey, how you doing? Again, another person I haven't seen. 7 Delta with 7. Maybe you meant 7 Bravo. Is that your zone? 7 Bravo. You're not far from me if it is. Cat Clark, yes. Texas rocks. That's what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah,
Texas is
Texas.
cool.
Woo! Let's
Yeah,
do it.
Unicorn
Texas, let's
Lady.
go.
Hey, Unicorn Lady. Hey, how you doing? Thanks for Sister Sue. My girl, Sister Sue, in the building, y'all. Y'all better respect it, Sister Sue. Suzette
What's
Moose.
up, Garden Eden? How you doing?
Sylvia. Hey, how you doing, Sylvia? How you doing? Thanks for being here. Hey, Jay Binion, if you're watching, I saw your email. I'm going to respond to you. I got your wine. I unboxed it during the live, and then I forgot to send you an email. I'm terrible, but don't worry. I'll be sending something back your way, but I appreciate you, brother. It was delicious. Tomfoolery. Yes, ma'am. Garden Eden. Hey, how you doing? V Williams, you had to take off, tend to the children. No worries. I appreciate you being here. My brother Eco Neighbors in the building. I appreciate you for being here. I'm a New Yorker by birth and a Texan by choice because it's warmer there, right? I know that's why. I moved to Texas at age 18 and I am now 63 years young. I'm going to go ahead and add that on there. And still loving it. That's what I'm talking about, Cat Clark.
Hey, if you're loving it, you're young in spirit.
That's right. And Dale, that's amazing, Turf. What a smart move for such a young man. NC here, zone AA. So, okay, so you're at NC. You're near my brother. He's a little, I think my brother's more of a 7B. I think he's more of a, he's got more snow than me this year. So he's over there. He's closer to CB's greenhouse garden. Yeah, the hydroponics king, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, he's over there near him, near Sanford area. So that's cool. So let's get back on topic to the gardening queue. Let's talk about composting, right? Have you been doing much composting over the winter, and what is your preferred method?
So my preferred method, a lot of people like the thermophilic method, which is the getting it hot and turning it and everything like that. I like that method, but let's be real here. A lot of people don't have the time to really dedicate to going out there and turning it at the perfect time intervals and hitting this perfect thermometer temperature and doing all this other stuff. I think that's great. And I think that it has its place. But I think that for small time operations, cold composting is the way to go, because you give it about a good 6-7 months and you put the right inputs into there. By the time your garden season rolls around, it's going to be stable. That's what you're looking for. Stability.
Stability. Yeah, I completely agree. And if you don't have enough space, y'all know, and if you didn't know, I prefer vermiculture. Now, I did do a little compost on the side this year to prepare for some very huge grow bags that I ended up getting, and I wanted to cut my costs as far as filling them up. And then since that I do so much container gardening, I say if you're gardening in the ground, worm castings, you making your own worm castings is not necessary because your worms are producing so much. Like in the ground, you'll produce plenty of worm castings on its own. But for container gardening, I'm on the limb of saying that it's almost vital. And hear me out, because when you're in the container, the life in your soil medium is not performing the same way. It's not automatically being replenished and recycled and revigorated like it is when it's in the ground. So with worm castings, and especially brewing up worm tea, which you guys have seen me do here, I think that that's a huge benefit to re-energizing that life in that medium. What's your take on that? Much more experienced gardener.
Hey, we're all trying to learn something, man. And I think that I think so. As far as vermicomposting goes, I do have a worm bin as well. I haven't shown it, but I do plan on showing it and everything. But I'm in the works of actually expanding it. So the way that I did my worm bin, I took a pot that had like a tomato plant in it, and then I basically just added worms to it. It was a 5-gallon pot, fabric pot, and I gave them I added maybe 300 worms to it. Like that seems like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of worms. But I added 300 worms to that pot. And literally I just kept it moist, kept it kind of misted on the top, and then watered the bottom every now and then. And before you know it, 3 months later, I kind of dug into the soil a little bit, and you could see like the orbitide soil mites, the good ones. You could see the worms. You could see like the crawlies. You could see all that stuff. You could see the beneficials at their work. So I gave them a 3-month period to kind of concentrate themselves. And now what I'm going to do is take that 5-gallon pot and multiply that to a 15-gallon pot. I got some of that leaf matter from the composting video I did. I'm going to add that to it, add some peat moss, add some minerals to it, and then essentially let them building block more of that stuff. And what I use those worm castings for is as an inoculum. It's right on the lines of what you just said. So essentially I'll take whenever I start a new pot, I'll take a handful of that stuff and I'll just literally put it on the top and I'll mulch right over it. And I'm not even kidding. Within 2 weeks, that pot is just teeming with life. And the plants never have problems when it's like that. I'm telling you, as long as you have good quality inputs, you're straight.
You're straight. You're good to go. My little brother's in the building, y'all. Malik Palmer. Hey, that's the gardener of the year right there. I'm gonna let y'all know he's the gardener of the year because he didn't know, he knew even less than me, and his garden still looks better than mine. Pumping out stuff left and right. He's resetting it. He's got him a little indoor green. I'm gonna tell you what, I bought one of those grow tents, the Vivo Sun grow tents, and I plan to make room for it somewhere here in this room or in the garage.
That little 5-foot one.
Yeah.
I got that one. I got 2 of those.
and I bought it and I was like, I'm gonna make room for this thing. And then I went to my brother's house and he is so ingenuitive and just finds a way to get it done. And he had this corner in his room that he'd set up and made like this makeshift grow room, right? That it was working, but it
made a little microclimate.
Right. He kind of made like a little microclimate in the perfect place too, in his laundry room where it stayed plenty humid. Right.
Oh yeah.
So he put thought into it and it was working. But I got the grow tent and I was like, you know what? It's the holiday time. I'm in a giving mood. And I dropped it off on him and he is doing some amazing stuff with it. We'll get an update from him probably around April. I'll go live with Malik and I'll show y'all what Malik is working with. But thank you.
There's so much value.
Bro.
And there's so much value in you giving that to him, because check this out. At the time, if you would have unboxed that and used that right now, or whenever you had that, you would have gotten benefit out of it. But he bloomed with that thing. So now when you do decide to do it, you're going to amplify. You're going to build on the base that he's already built, because y'all already operate pretty much as a unit, because y'all are family. So it's just giving within your own clan, especially. Oh my gosh, it's no way to beat that.
Yeah, no, I don't regret it at all. And he's doing some amazing stuff with it already. Oh, Back to Our Roots is in the building. Back to Our Roots. I saw your email.
What's up?
I'm going to get back at you. I appreciate you reaching out, because I definitely forgot that I said I was going to reach out. I would have remembered, but I'm very, very busy. So, but I appreciate you being here, and I'm going to get back at you. Gigi's Naturals Homestead. Hey, how you doing, darling? Thank you for being here. Polo Fields, my man Ken. What up, though? He's in Kentucky. That's a good dude right there. He's nice with the beats.
We're all around the country tonight.
I'm gonna need my own beat too back there. Polo Fields Lawn Service. You giving out beats out there.
I know, right?
Elevated Lawnscapes got a beat. Where's my beat? Come on, man. What I gotta do to get on the team?
He over here slanging beats.
Right. Let me get on the team. What's going on? Okay. All right, cool. So we talked about composting. Hey, oh yeah. Q. You're the perfect guy. This is what I want you to do, man. I know that you haven't seen this video because it's an older video, but I have this video, and you guys in the chat, you're welcome to check it out, because I'm about to put FarmerQ on the spot, and he may do this because I'm going to put a lot of pressure on them. Help me put this pressure on Q, because he has the space to do it, and I know that he's more than capable of doing it.
Let's make some diamonds and not bust pipes. Why don't we?
That's right. So Q, I want you to go check out my video. It's probably about 10 months old. Right, and it's called "What's in Your Compost." Pretty sure that's what it's called. The video is about 20 minutes right now. The video is about 20 minutes long, right? But it's worth hanging out until the end, because you get to see the people behind the scenes that make the compost, right? And those are some amazing people working at this establishment. So you go check out that video, and what he's doing is a static aerated compost pile, right? And what this guy does, right? He's actually a veteran. It's called Veterans Compost. What he does, and what I plan to do when I get to my next place, I plan to do this as well. But I think you have enough space to pull it off because I've seen how big your compost pile is, or I feel like you'll be motivated to at least make room for it. So what he
I
does
can
is
accommodate.
he takes PVC pipes, right? I think they're about 6 inch.
Oh man.
6
Oh,
inch.
I know where you're going.
And he puts it on the timer, and then he puts a little cheap vacuum on it. He rigs the whole thing up, and he's got this thermometer, very cheap thermometer probe that he put in it, and he can he can monitor the temperature so he knows when to flip it on and all. He might have the whole thing wired to make it maintain a certain amount of heat in there. I'm not sure. You have to go back and watch the video because I'm pretty sure he told me in the video, and I put it all in there. But a static aerated pile, it allows him to compost everything. He composts meat, everything that people tell you to keep out of your compost piles, he will throw it in there. And the reason why he's able to throw it in there is because he applies so much air to it to make sure that the heat stays on the rise. I like that idea, not because it's completely necessary for cold composting, because you can go the cold composting route and still be successful. But I like what he's doing because it increases your yield. It reduces the amount of time that you're waiting on it. And it's super cool. Like, it's like sciencey nerdy. And I feel like you're right up that alley, just like me. So that static aerated pile, that static aerated pile, I think that you'll get a kick out of it. It seems like you're already familiar with it. Go
Well,
check it out.
I actually wasn't. I jumped ahead of myself. But it's like it's perfect. It makes perfect sense. Like, and like the heat application, it all makes sense. I mean, you're basically providing the right environment to cultivate the right specific microbes to be able to break down those materials in those conditions. Now, I mean, like what I was actually thinking about was like it's called like a Jinsu reactor or something like that, and you essentially you get a pallet and you set up 5 PVC pipes in a star pattern but it's the perforated pipe, and it has holes in it, and then you fill it up with wood chips, and then the perforated pipes being set up in that pattern actually facilitates oxygen exchange at the perfect rate or some crap like that. So, but that's what I was thinking.
More technical than what I'm talking about.
But no, what you're talking about, I put a lot of words into it, but what you're talking about is just as technical, and it's brilliant. I love it all. That's why I'm so, like you said, I'm nerdy about it. I just nerd out whenever we talk about stuff like that.
You did just nerd out for a minute. What we got? Malik said, just chilling here by Grow 10, checking the stars. That's what I'm talking about. Stinky Puddle Ranch is in the building. What's going on, Stinky
What's
Puddle
up?
Ranch? Hey, how you doing? Hey, I just talked you up, CB. See, I just deemed you CB. I deemed you the king of hydroponics just two ticks ago, brother. You're over there by my little brother, and I hope that I'm able to come and check you out and see you before things normalize. I know that you're right up the street, so I can't wait to bring my little brother over there with me as well to show him what you got growing on, not going on, but growing on.
We all got to get stronger in that frontier. That's a frontier a lot of people aren't comfortable with, is hydroponics. And hey, if you can kind of get familiar with that, you can do a lot of stuff in your house that a lot of people can't.
Yeah. Oh, Clausen. So Clausen does a lot of cold aeration piles as well. If you haven't heard of Clausen World, go check her out. She has a lot of videos on composting. She just does them in I think they're like 40. They're like your regular trash cans that you take to the curb each week. She does them right there and there. Write those in those cans. That's actually who I got the idea from, to do them in a much smaller can. But I got them from I got the idea from Clausen. I never filmed anything. I never really showed it to you because the timing just didn't work out. Mark's in the building. Lawn Creeps Limited. Got to have aerated compost to foster aerobic beneficial microorganisms. Yeah, of course. You know that aerated compost definitely does help promote the beneficial organisms.
You want to know something crazy too, though?
What's going on, bro?
Like you can go straight up aerated, or you can go complete opposite with the fermentation. And
yeah, it works
crazy, right?
yeah, it works. But I mean, and then you can go a whole nother route where you let things eat it and poop it out for you.
Oh man, yeah.
Right? And then just use that. Eco Neighbor dropped that link to that video, so if y'all want to check that out. Miss Craft, I'm drinking a very young very cloudy, ugly looking, but tasty and gets to the point. First racking of a specific blend.
So yeah,
So
about those
here's to you.
wines though, like if they're in that if they're in that particular state, wouldn't they help more with your digestion than if they were actually finished?
They actually do. Yeah, it actually it's helpful to yeah, healthy. It's like a probiotics type thing. So yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Without it being finished, that yeast is definitely good for your belly. So you said I'm always late. I'm always late. Yeah, it's good for your body. So you nailed it. You said waving at everyone. Yeah. Hey Tina. Oh, Tina's in here. Pit stop guard kitchen. Tina, I opened up the listen, my wife is more excited about that gift that I won. And the reason why is because and babe, if you watching, if you bring it to me real quick, I want to show the people this. This is really cool. The reason why she was eyeing that same thing at Michael's. Apparently it's on sale at Michael's right now, and she wanted to get it. So that was a really, really cool gift. Thank you.
Nice.
Super
Hey,
cool.
she got me that Lowe's gift card. I still have to use that, and I was thinking about going out and trying to do a little. That's not my style, but hey, we got to step outside our comfort zone, right? I want to go out and actually spend that money on camera and actually use the gift card. That'd be pretty cool.
There you go. Yeah. So what we got? Left two's in the building. What's going on, left two? Hey fellas, almost missed out. I like the guitars in the background. Yeah, I like the guitars in the background too. So who is that?
That's Tiffany. That's Tiffany. Hey,
Tiffany?
hey,
I knew it was Tiffany. So cute.
I sing and she plays, but I'm not singing tonight. I'm not doing it.
See, you could. Why you even see? The people.
Hey, but you mentioned the guitar. Hey, I had to just couple
in the
it
chat
together.
Probably gonna make you sing, but make you sing. You know, it is what it is. But my wife, she just brought this in. This is it, guys. So what it is it's a large photo.
I love it.
Craft keeper, right? And inside the box, like my mentor brother Led says, what's in the box? Inside the box.
Broke farmer. I do got leftover cornbread in there. You could have it if you could get here.
That's right. Oh, okay. Yeah. Deal. If you sing, I'll go grab the trumpet. So there you go. Put you on the spot. So inside the box, there's more boxes inside the box. So we're going to use this to store our seeds, guys. Because right now we store our seeds two different ways. Give me 2 tips. Let me show you. We store our seeds. This is a lovely gift from Miss Craft. This is an old, y'all remember CDs?
Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool.
That's buy CDs. So she did a little arts and craft on there for me. But what I have in here is this is all my cool season seeds, and they're in alphabetical order, and they're separated by, you know, the alphabet.
Oh my gosh.
This is how I sort my seeds. So I sort my seeds by cool season and warm season.
Can I steal that?
Alphabetical order. Yeah, steal it all day. It's not even mine to steal. That's not mine to steal because Miss Craft was the one who put me onto it. So it's not even mine to steal. I'm just passing the knowledge, sharing the knowledge. And then the other way that we've been storing our seeds is y'all know Dollar Tree has the plug. Dollar Tree has the plug. So these containers I got from Dollar Tree, and then I just went in, separated warm, cool season, and then we have our flowers in another bin, and then I have herbs and medicinals on this side, and I put them all in their own little Ziploc bags. And right here I have like all my tomatoes are in here in these bags, and they were in alphabetical order. I'm just gonna shove it back in here because I don't feel like fooling with it. And then yeah, that's another way we store our seeds. But now we have this wonderful, beautiful container from Tina from Pit Stop Kitchen. So Pit Stop Kitchen and Garden. So it'll be cool to use that within. And wife wants to go buy like 10 more. I told her have at it. If you keep the seeds organized, I'll keep growing the seeds. That's the deal. So
I wanna get harder on my seed game too. But one thing that I'm holding off on with that is the fact that before I got back started with YouTube and everything, I already was doing a lot of this crafty stuff, and now I'm doing it to a whole new level. And my refrigerator space, my freezer space, my deep freezer space, it's non-existent. So we're essentially in a spot where we need to get to a new place, which we've only been here for a year and we've already outgrown this place heavily. And we need to just get a little bit more space. So it's fine. It's a good thing to have, a good problem to have, but I want to just do more.
Yeah, I'm right. Hey, look, nobody feels your pain more than I right now, brother. I wish I had more space, and I'll have more space here in the near future. What's that? So what we got here? Sin B said, yes, I have one of those turf for my seeds. That's what I'm talking about. See, that thing is clutch. That Michael's, yeah, and they're on sale. So they're on sale at the Michael's here where we are. So check out your local Michael's. They might be on sale where you are. She said, is a box. Best yet, Journey. Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, I hopped off track there for a second, but I meant to say that I want to get more storage space for the seeds so I can have more seeds in the refrigerated space.
Yeah, I want like I picture like a armoire or
oh my gosh,
armoire of like like, oh, you know what? Remember when we used to go when we used to go to the library? Remember when we used to go to the library?
Yeah.
And you were looking for a book and you would look in the whatever that thing was called that had the cards in there, and then you would find the card, and then the card would tell you where the book was located, and then you would go to the aisle. I want something like that to where I can like open the whole thing and
like a seed Dewey Decimal System.
That would be dope, right?
That would be dope.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Hey, chips and guac. I wish I had some chips and salsa. Yeah, that name just makes you want some chips and salsa.
Oh my gosh, for real.
CK is very creative. So cool. I know, right? Miss Crafty on it, man. Growing something with Jeff. What's going on? Growing something with Jeff. I'd say growing something with Jeff is right up there in the rankings with CB and Miss Craft when it comes to the.
Oh man, gotta check them out.
You gotta check them out for sure. I feel you too. I got fruit trees in my apartment now. Wow. Yeah, that's some dedication.
That is.
One can never have enough space when it comes to gardening. You might be right. I mean, that's why Gigi might be looking to snatch up 40 acres in the mule. So,
and hey, you said you got the fruit trees in the apartment. Let me tell you something about these HOAs, right? So, and I still haven't adhered to it, and they haven't fined me yet. So I'm gonna tread the line a little bit on this one. But so when we got here, we had some oak trees they called them live oak trees, but they were bur oak trees, and they were literally 4 feet away from each other. And bur oak trees get to be about 50 feet tall. About the trunk itself gets about 8 feet wide when it gets really big. So the trees were going to literally grow into each other and not have space. So right. I literally went, and they were already dead when we had them there. They had moss growing all over them.
Right.
I'm like, and y'all want us to have these requirements. So what I do, I'm the crazy neighbor. I'm just going to let y'all know that right now. So I go out there with a pickaxe and a handsaw, and I cut the tree with a handsaw, and I get a pickaxe and I get the whole root ball out. And I put 2 vitex trees in the place of those trees. And so chas trees, vitex trees, juniper trees, whatever you want to call them. No, not juniper. I'm sorry. Chas trees. Just look up chas tree or look up vitex tree. It's like a speary tree with purple blooms. The tree gets to about 10 to 15 feet tall, and it's just like a big hedge tree. So I put 2 of those there, and they've already grown dramatically. But the HOA sends me a friendly letter. Oh, you have to have a 4-inch caliper, blah blah blah. And I'm like, gosh, do I have to pull up these trees and pot them and put some live oak trees just to make these people happy? But they haven't said nothing to me since, so I'm just gonna roll.
You're just gonna leave them and tell them it gets bigger. Give them
exactly. When it gets 4 inches in caliper, I'm gonna be like, hey, look, because the Vitec, you can have a Vitec, it just has to be 4 inches in caliper. So I was like, hey, it's 4 inches. I don't know what y'all are asking for. I already got it for y'all. So
just give it some time. Let them mature. Y'all didn't say anything when I had the stuff that was gonna die and fall over and be a menace.
A safety hazard, yeah.
Right, yeah.
Because our neighbor's tree did fall over and actually fell on their car and scratched their car.
Right.
So it's funny that you actually mentioned that.
Yeah, no, see, and then State Farm had to come in and save the day.
That's probably why they're not complaining no more, because they realized their grave error.
Exactly. Growing, no, that wasn't growing something with Jeff. That was, what was it? I just lost it. Oh, Joy. Hey, Joy. Gardening in context, cocktails with Joy. Hey, how you doing? Thanks for being here.
Who's in the back? Oh, so Eco Neighbor asked who is in the back. That's my dog, Pink. So at first, Rose was chilling right here. that's my parents' dog. They're actually in the process of getting into a new house. They're living with some relatives of ours right now. So we're just keeping, and so Pink had Rose and Rusty, which you see the bronze dog and you see Rose running around. They're Pink's offspring. Pink had 12 puppies, from which I took care of all the way until 8 weeks old, and they're all in happy homes and stuff now. But I have Rose, who is visiting, and Rusty, that's the other fur baby in here, and yeah, so they just occasionally come visit. So that, to answer your Eco Neighbors question.
That's cool. That's cool. I missed that, so that's why I got my co-host, right? So I can't keep up with everything. Ellen Panky, hey, how you doing? Thanks for being here. Card catalog, that's what it's called. Thank you, Stinky Puddle Ranch. I appreciate that. Card catalog. Where are we at? Who is in the back? Okay, Mama just said dinner is ready. Shrimp and rice. Ooh, that sounds good. Hey, thanks for stopping in. I appreciate you, CV. Thanks for stopping in. So let me go over here real quick. Let's talk about techniques with mulching. What are some of your techniques with mulching, and the importance of mulching as well? And those dreaded, let's go ahead and just, those dreaded mulch volcanoes that you always see your neighbor do, the inexperienced neighbor.
Around the trees?
Yeah.
They don't know how to do the proper mulch ring, so they make it look like a molten chocolate cake from one of those restaurants.
Right. Chocolate cake from one of those restaurants.
Oh, well, okay, well, shoot, let's talk about it. So mulching, man, it does so much. It does so much. So it kind of starts to change your soil profile in the right way. So what typically happens in a lot of our soils is we typically end up with bacterial dominance, which is great for the crops that we grow, because they're annual. Usually they come and they go. So the bacteria are producing faster nutrients. They're pumping stuff out. Whereas where when you mulch with whatever wood chip base that you mulch with, you start to incorporate a fungal aspect to whatever your garden is. And what that does is some of the natures that fungi have, and they're good in this particular instance, but some of the nature that fungi have is they help retain water. So if you have a mulch layer that you've established for 2 years, you might have up to 400 times more water retention. A lot of people don't realize that those numbers get crazy. That's why Beauty in the Garden the other night was talking about, oh man, I don't water, I don't have to do that. She has kept her mulch layers established. She's kept her organic matter layers on top established. And she's essentially created a situation where those fungi become the conductors for those bacteria. And that's what you want, because they become the leaders of the bacterial microherd that is going crazy. And the protozoa, we're not going to get too crazy about it, but the fungi and the bacteria, they're really getting that balance going when you mulch. And on top of that, you're saving water from a physical basis. Like you're stopping the sun from hitting your soil. So you're preserving that micro life within your soil. And those wood chips are going to warm up if it gets cold from the sunlight and be a conductor. And then they're going to keep your soil cool in the summertime when it's actually the sun's beaming down on it. So I can't even count on two hands how many benefits you get with mulching your garden consistently. Yeah. It doesn't have to be wood chips either.
Yeah. And it works both ways when it comes to, you guys saw I learned the hard way. And I don't know how I just spaced on this and forgot all about it. But mulching in the wintertime keeps your soil from freezing as well. When you're in container gardening, it keeps that soil warm. So for me, when I was container gardening and I left a lot of things unmulched, when I had my first winter storm here, I went out there and I was trying to get my rutabagas, and you guys saw me. I was in there with my freaking hoary knife that Mark put me on from Lioncrest Limited. I'm just sitting there jagging and trying to get the rutabagas out without breaking them. So beneficial to where it reestablishes, it almost inoculates that soil. It encourages all those microbacteria to be in there, getting the word protozoa, all that fungi, all those fancy little science words. Just know it's good. It's good. It's good for you. It's good for your vegetables. It's good for your soil. It's good for the life in there. So yeah, slow down, Q. I'm taking notes. Eco said, I'm taking notes. Yeah, and Clausen World was one of the first ones that slid in there. And she said, Turf, yeah, you gotta mulch your containers. You see, and when she said that, I remember that she kept all of her containers mulched, even in the summer, so, and I was able to get away with not mulching them during the summer. And, I happened to be at my brother's house after that, and I snatched up a whole bunch of free pine straw right from his yard, because he's got big old pines in his yard. So I took a bag for that. brought it back home, and that's how I had pine straw in Maryland. There's no pine trees out. At least I haven't seen any pine trees out
Hey,
here.
so a misnomer about pine straw, a lot of people will sit there and say, oh, don't use that as mulch because it's going to acidify your soil too much. No, I'm going to tell you right now, that's a lie. That's a lie.
It takes a lot to move that pH, people.
Yeah.
It's not a lie. It's just
yes. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yes.
a misnomer. Like you
Yes.
need a lot of.
You need a tree. You need a tree to literally be shedding on that ground consistently over years.
Yeah. to permanently adjust that pH. Yeah, for sure. Gardening and Cocktails with Joy said, drop that knowledge, young man. I assume she's talking to you because you're well, maybe she's talking to me because you're the oldest person in here. 3 naps a day. Oh, I mulched my trees for winter. Thought I did wrong. No, you did right.
Oh,
and
man,
when we're talking about the volcano mulching, guys, your mulch should not. This is the one way I've seen it done to where it looked like it probably would work. Like they had a mound, but then near the bark of the tree, it kind of hollowed out almost like it was a concave mulch job. I don't know why they did it that way. Of course, I'm inexperienced, but it looked like someone purposely did that and they knew what they were doing. But when you pack all of that mulch around the bark of your tree, 3 to 6 inches above the exposed root ball, what ended up happening is that tree will start to, break down and rot essentially right there at the trunk of it.
Oh, so yeah. There's bad fungi too.
There's bad fungi too. And it will root that tree and kill the tree. It will essentially kill your tree. So don't do that.
So to kind of elaborate a little bit on the volcano thing, it's kind of a delicate balance because there is a right way to kind of do that volcano planting, but you have to know exactly what you're doing. And like you said, so you make the volcano, but you make it to where it's more of a raised hill. Like you don't make a volcano and then you put the tree in the middle, but you make a ring on the outside of it. So you essentially make a water holding place that can drain well, and your tree is sitting slightly above that layer. So your roots might even be showing just a little bit. So it's people kind of you have to plant your tree above ground level to let the roots shoot down. So your top roots have oxygen and your bottom roots always have tap to that reservoir. So those are very important elements to that.
Right. So know what you're doing. And if you don't, ask somebody that does. Start with your extension office for sure.
Yes.
As long as you didn't put 3 cubic feet on each. Yeah, I've seen that though. I have seen that. Literally, I have seen that in my own neighborhood. Mulch volcano, amen to that. As much as I teach the neighbors, they keep piling it on. Yeah, they just let them do it. It's their money, their tree. You can't save every tree from every bad tree owner. So
yeah,
fungi break down the lignin in the wood chips. Bacteria cannot. Gotcha. When we get the fungal to the bacterial biomass correct for the specific plant, you get optimal nutrient cycling.
Yes.
There we go. Mycorrhizal fungi provide an incredible amount of benefits to soil function and plant health. I completely concur with everything you just said, Mark. And anybody who caught the excerpt, I think it was actually one of the first interviews, co-host things that I did on this channel was with Mark. If you haven't caught that, you need to go back and soak up all that goodness and then go over to his channel and get even more. Clausen World said concave mulch keeps the water, and when you water mulching it like a volcano will rot the trunk of a tree. Right. Yep. So like Q was saying, if you know what you're doing, you can do it the proper way. And when you don't, you end up killing your tree. So be conscious of that, guy. Let's be conscious of that. Yeah, they in here. My little
they're like, is daddy talking to me?
Right. Yeah, everything is going on around here. So for me here in Maryland, right? I'm changing the way I grow a few things, and it's specifically because of disease pressure, right? Being so close to the coast has its benefits because I stay much warmer, but also, there's a flip side of that coin, where I get pretty muggy and humid during the spring, which, humid, muggy conditions with things like lettuce, and it's warm enough for aphids to be prevalent, a little bit too much nitrogen one day, and then you have a glory hole of aphids, and or you have a glory hole of fungus, that powdery dry mildew. And one of the things that I've learned this past year is having enough space in between your plants to
Airflow.
encourage the airflow that will kind of keep most of these things from happening. And now we've slipped into the disease control era of this segment. And Q, you want to share some of the practices that you've learned, or some common mistakes that you've seen gardeners do over your past 13 years of experience in gardening, and even some mistakes maybe you're even still making today, and that, or you can't help. Let's talk about it.
So I can speak on both. First, I'll speak on some of like kind of a bigger mistake I made this last gardening season in regards to disease and as far as conditions for plant requirements and things of that nature.
Mhm.
This past season, I built raised beds originally on the side that my raised hill is on right now, where all the broccoli and the beets are and stuff like that. I built my raised beds originally on that side. And when I
Right.
built them, I was just, oh my gosh. And this speaks to some of the growth in certain areas that you always deal with. I just built the beds. I didn't do any kind of leveling. I didn't do anything like that. But I was just like, oh, it'll be okay. The beds are raised off the ground. You can't make that assumption. You cannot make that assumption. So what you have to do before you build these raised beds, especially if you're in an area that is like straight up black gumbo clay, that is the biggest determining factor. So I don't know if y'all remember, I was talking about how Eco Neighbor has sandy soil where he's at. So he can, if he wanted to, he could literally build his bed inside the ground probably and be okay, because there's enough potential aeration, enough potential drainage. But for me, if my bed is with 1 inch into the ground, when I water one time, it turns into a sewage plant. My
Mhm.
compost stinks. Everything is terrible. And I didn't know that until my plants were all dying. Funny
Mhm.
enough, my okra plant was the only plant that was trucking through. It was like, I don't care. I love life. I'm just going to live. I'm an okra. So, so that was cool. But when I went and checked the beds out, I was just like, something's not right. So I literally took the wood on the side of the raised beds, got like a wedge, and I propped them up with a sharpshooter, and I grabbed a handful of soil and I smelled it, and it was worse than number two of the worst person with burritos on a Friday. It was terrible. It was terrible. It smelled so bad. And I was just like, okay, I understand what's going on. Immediately, it was like a light bulb went off, and I was like, okay, let's redo this. So I took the sides off the beds. I got all that dirt out of there, left the mound for the okra because the okra was just wanting to do its own thing. So I
Right.
just rebuilt the beds on the other side. Had the same problem after I did it because I didn't level again. We make the
Dang.
same mistakes twice. We do it. Even the people who see, even the people who this is my calling. I love to do this. I'm passionate about this. That's
We
that's
make
a
mistakes.
that's not a facade, but that is a face. It is something that you claim your identity based around so you can feel stronger about it. But we all have to go back to our roots. Just like turf therapy said, we have to go back to our roots and what we were taught from the beginning. So I went on the other side. It wasn't as bad, but I had the same problem. The soil was stinky. So that video that I got to rebuild the raised beds, crying emojis everywhere. I was actually sad because, and you thought it was for emotional shock value, but I was actually sad. I had to rebuild those beds, and I went out there and I took 3 days and I leveled that whole area. I
Yeah,
leveled it out flat, and
I saw.
I built the beds, filled the soil up. I put the wood chips on top, and I did a test watering. And the first thing that I noticed after doing that test watering, the beds were just weeping like they were crying on the bottoms, and I was just like, thank you, thank you. I'm sorry about that. I was
Uh,
just like, thank you, thank you. So I was so happy. But that's a mistake that I made, like
right,
a quote unquote experienced gardener. I made that
right.
mistake, and oftentimes I see a lot of other people make mistakes and things like that, but I don't want to take up too much time with that little mistake. I just want to talk about my experience, but I'll talk about the other part of that point after we kind of bounced off of turf a little bit. So
No, yeah, and like, well, a good question that Eco brought up, and I'll let you take it as soon as I get done. But he said, "How do you maintain your indoor airflow I haven't done a significant amount of indoor growing other than in this past year. And to be honest, I haven't really had an issue with airflow. I just keep a fan in here and that gets it done for me. But as far as in the garden, I dealt with a little bit of powdery mildew here and there. And it was almost always because the plants were too close. That's literally that, like that was the issue. Spacing, I was trying to be greedy. I was trying to place too many things too close. And when the conditions were right, I didn't have any issues when it was nice and dry and arid. But as soon as the moisture and the warmth, the cool nights and the warm days came, it
was just
demolished.
inviting. It was
Yeah,
inviting
it was,
for him.
yeah. Now I was stay. Luckily, I was in my garden every single day because we were all at home. So I caught it very quickly, and I was able to go in there, prune, spray things down, and wash it away. And it didn't do much. Excuse me. It didn't do much damage that was long lasting, and everything kept producing, especially the flowers. So I was good there. But on the long term, I learned a lesson really quick to just make sure that you don't get too greedy, because you get too greedy and try to plant things too close, then you end up with nothing. Whereas if you would have placed them properly, spaced them out properly, you'd have been good to go. And talking about spacing, I got my little cool tool in that I'll be using this season. You might look at me laughing while I'm using it, but being an inexperienced gardener, I realized that the thing that I struggled the most with during the season was proper spacing. And it's just because I look and I'm like, yeah, that's 6 inches. And it's not 6 inches. You know what I mean? That's 12 inches. It's not 12 inches. And if there's anything to pay attention to the most when it comes to planting your plants, certain plants, you definitely want to make sure your spacing is adequate for sure. So what do you have as far as indoor, maintaining your indoor flow? And Miss Craft does a good amount of indoor growing. I'm sure she can chime in here as well.
Well, as far as indoor growing, I have like a few tents and everything. I use it mostly for establishing plants for the following season. Um, but as far as that goes, you just once you get your timing right, and I'm just coming up on that this year. And let me tell you what really has helped me come up on my timing this year, being on YouTube. Simple as that.
Keep you on point,
This is a massive accountability server if you let it be. If you literally immerse yourself in this, not don't make it your life, but if you let everything that you're sharing become a part of your normal life, it will make you feel obligated to do those things that are a part of your normal life. And I noticed that, and I was like, man, I got to keep doing this because it keeps me on this high vibration. That's like my energy levels are higher, even though I'm still taking naps every day. I'm an old man, but my energy levels are higher. I'm getting it in. I'm doing my thing. So I'm super appreciative of that. That's one thing we got to keep in mind. And I don't want to, it's so easy to, everything is the same. It's so easy to divert off of the subject, but you're still on the subject. You just have to stay kind of concentrated. I get off flow sometimes.
It's all good.
But yeah, touching on the subject of the disease and pest control, back other people's mistakes that I've noticed. People tend to do the concentration thing, and I did the concentration thing on the beets video a little bit. Like if you notice, some of my beets were actually smaller when they were closer together. So yes, you might end up with nothing because of the fungal like things happening, the powdery mildew and things like that, or the bugs, but you might also end up with nothing because your plants are fighting each other.
Yeah.
So if you end up with that situation, you're just going to be out of luck. One thing to consider, this applies to trees, this applies to perennial plants, this applies to annual plants, everything except for creeping. Even for creeping vines, I'll even tell you that. So if your soil allows it, however big your plant's canopy is, your roots are going to typically be about as wide as that goes. Now, that being said, you can have spacing to where your plants kind of touch, but you have to have open area between your plants. And what that does is your roots.
It's pretty cool. I'm just like envisioning what you're saying right now. And I think that that's a solid statement to make. Even though, like, if you remember those pictures of trees when they show you the tree on the top and then the root system that's as big as a tree, that's fake, by the way. Most trees don't go 12 feet deep. There's no oxygen down there, people. But anyway, but one thing that's pretty consistent is the width of those roots are pretty much aligned with those canopies. And now that I'm thinking about like pulling tomatoes out, the width of the tomato plant, you know, if it was in the ground, would probably be in line with its canopy. So that's a good
So,
point.
but so there's a line to walk, because if you have the plants close enough but far enough away from each other, you end up with mycorrhizal connections between the plants, but then they don't nutrient rob each other. So you know, when you hear people say, "Oh, plants talk to each other," they let each other. Those people aren't crazy. So mycorrhizae, when they make connections with the plant roots, they essentially give the plants the ability to communicate with each other through their root systems. And then not only that, but plants send out pheromones and hormones that tell literally the other same varieties of plants that a pest is attacking it. Okay, I'm getting plagued by pests. Oh my God. Like, plant over here, make sure you increase your defenses if we have the capability of the inputs of our soil to now allow you to draw this out. So if you have chitin, like, which is bug shell, like, or which is anything of that form that's broken down, if that's in your soil and this other plant sends out the hormone distress signal, this other plant over here is going to draw chitin out of the soil and bolster its cell walls, which is going to fight against that powdery mildew. It's going to fight against those invasive fungal spores that are trying to, because when those fungal spores come in, the cell wall is like this and the fungal spore goes like that. But and then they kind of start to screw in. It's much like a sperm and egg, not to get, but they try to screw in. So, but what happens is if your cell wall is this thick and they try to screw in, they're going to screw in. They have a certain amount of time before they die. If they're screwing into a cell wall and they get halfway and they don't make it in time, they die right there. And then the plant makes a scab and becomes even stronger in that spot. So if you can have an establishment of calcium, an establishment of pectin, if you can have an establishment of all these things that will create essentially a glue layer that hardens and calcifies whenever it gets attacked, you end up with it's all a big picture. It's all a big picture. That's what it's all about. I'm not trying to get too deep into that rabbit hole, but it's a big
that's cool, man. That's and to your point with and I'm gonna pick on my my vegan / vegetarian people, specifically the ones and if you grace the presence of the greenhouse lounge every once in a while, you've heard led say this as well. But vegans and vegetarians who don't eat animals because they're living things. Listen, these plants are just as much as alive. Like, you talking about the plants communicating. Listen, you like one thing that Led says all the time: take the light, move the light, and watch the plant move to the direction.
Oh man, it'll bend like a circus act.
Right. All of my plants right now, right here behind me, behind this green screen, all of my plants are facing towards the light. The leaves are literally like, the leaves and the branches are like facing towards where the light is coming from. And I'm watching them do that. And what's going to be even cooler is when I put them outside here in about 3 months and they just open all the way up. And to recognize, understand, and respect that, I think is an important principle to becoming a successful gardener, a responsible gardener.
Oh yeah. Well. To get a real good.
Cam is in the building. Elevated Lawnscapes.
Hey, what's up,
brother? I appreciate you being here. Got here late, but you're here. Jordan Pitts said Southwest Missouri is horrible with water retention in clay soils. I leave about 3 to 4 inches of junk at the bottom of the pile, sticks, rocks, and mulch. And I assume he means to help encourage that drainage. And that's
definitely
that's when it's important to understand your soil.
So to his point, I layer the bottom of my raised beds. And I didn't put this on the video. I'm so sorry. I should have, but I layered it with 2 inches of lava rock on top of the fact that it was already level. So it hits the water basin, and then it kind of, so lava rock has pores inside of it too. So it acts as a reservoir and a drainage base. So when the plant's roots grow down into there, you have microbes inside the rocks, you have water inside the spaces of the rocks because of the surface area. It's like taking a football field and compacting it into a ball. So It's pretty cool.
Right. Best yet journey. She said, I didn't label again.
Oh man. Oh my gosh.
I'm doing better at labeling so far. It's easy to keep up with the labeling because things are going slow. Come back at me in a couple of months and let's see how good my labeling are. Because listen, this whole season, I thought a certain container had the purple cabbage, the calabash cabbage that I grew. It wasn't cabbage, it was Brussels sprouts. And this whole time, thought it was cabbage. And look,
Man,
I didn't
you made me
realize
think
it
of
was
something
Brussels
though.
sprouts until I was snapping the leaves off to eat them. And then the Brussels, little tiny Brussels started forming. I was like, oh, these cabbage is Brussels sprouts. So yeah, hey, look, it happens to the best of us. Miss Craft also says, I use a small fan on low to help with airflow indoors. Yeah, and that's pretty much
Oh yeah.
what I do. I think that cuts the mustard for that. How much calcium is too much calcium? Donnie, I'm not experienced enough to answer that question. What I will tell you though is kind of what Q was saying is plants will take up as much of certain things that they need. And since calcium isn't a macronutrient, I don't know if too much calcium in your soil would have an adverse effect to all plants. I'm sure it would to some. Outside of what Q is about to say, I would definitely consult your local extension office. And I know that seems like a cop-out way of answering that question, but I promise you, depending on your area might have high calcium. And that high
Yeah.
calcium might be very good for certain plants that will do great in your native soil. So just because it's high calcium doesn't mean it's bad. It just means you might have to change your tactics a little bit, like Gigi Naturals did when she got her soil test back. So I'll give you that. I don't know how much calcium is bad, so to speak, or too much calcium, but I know that everything that seems like it's too much might not necessarily too much for a certain plant. So what you got on that, Q?
So there's two different types of, I'm sure there might be more, but two types that I know of elemental calcium or calcium compounds, I'll say. You have calcium nitrate and you have calcium carbonate. And usually what you'll find in your water is the calcium carbonate. That's the stuff that kind of like makes little crusties on stuff when you're watering pots. That's the stuff that makes that white film layer outside of the chlorine and stuff like that too. But the calcium carbonate kind of leaves a film like behind on stuff. And usually calcium carbonate's okay for organic soil. Like if you're dealing with hydroponics, you want to get that out of there because it will lock out everything. It will literally make no nutrients available. But calcium nitrate, when you're dealing with hydroponics, it is a clean form of nitrogen that you can actually feed your plants and get a little nitrogen supplement off of it as well. But when we're talking about organics and talking about natural things breaking down into the soil, anything that you're putting into the, like anything that you're like plant stems, wood chips, eggshells, anything that's organic that breaks down that has calcium will be calcium nitrate, which will be a more available form of the actual calcium. But to answer your question, too much or too little calcium, if you're mulching with your calcium and it's organic, you're not going to go over abundance with your calcium. If you're in hydroponics, you can definitely go overboard with anything very easily in hydroponics because you're essentially tailor making the plant's growth process. Right. But I didn't want to get too lengthy on that, but it's a lot to go into with calcium.
No, that's solid. That's solid information. There you go. That just proves my point that reach out to your local extension office, please.
Yes.
But with those little tips from Q, that'll definitely get you on the right track. And to his point, the calcium carbonate, that makes sense. Carbon locks things. It holds things together. We are all carbon-based life forms. So when you hear carbon, think of something that can absorb, store, hold, transfer nutrients. And too much carbon will also rob your plants of the nutrients. It'll lock it up, like you said, lock it up, keep it locked up, and the plants can't get to it because it's all binded to the carbon, and the carbon won't release it for however long it feels like holding on to it. So that's a good point.
So check out what Gigi Natural said. I think because she's on point with that.
My soil test results said calcium optimum range is 800 to 320 parts per million. Right. So that's the range for that test. And take it in strides. Just understand a great source. Listen, if you're a new gardener or you're thinking about gardening this season and you haven't done anything to your soil, as the soil warms up in the spring, that is the perfect time to take your soil sample. Matter of fact, if your ground isn't frozen right now, like mine, it's been cold here, but my soil isn't frozen. This is a really good time to pull a soil sample. If it's been at least 60 to 90 days, 60 days at the bare minimum, since you made an application to your garden area or your lawn area, and your soil's not frozen right now, pull a soil sample, get in touch with your extension office. They'll teach you how to do it. They'll give you pamphlets on how to do it the proper way and conduct the soil test. So they'll teach you a lot about your soil for sure. Not saying that you need to use that test to now get a whole bunch of chemicals and fix your soil. No, but I'm saying that you can use that as a good teaching mechanism, a good guide point to understand what you're dealing with and what kind of plants you want to work on growing. My auntie, I guess you came back in the buildings. I was talking about this shirt earlier, Sage Marie Coffee and Tea. That's my real aunt, y'all. That's not my internet
Nice.
aunt. That's my real aunt. But hey, look, this shirt is nice. So we're gonna have to talk. Like, I need to know where you got these made.
That cotton feeling nice, or
Right,
that's not cotton, is it?
But it's,
Is it cotton?
I think it's cotton, but it's like a
nice.
four-way stretchy. It feels really good. So
man, if I can see the quality through the camera, I know that's a nice shirt.
This shirt feels like it feels like second skin right now. So yeah. Oh, and my mom's in the building. The whole family's in there. I got my brother.
What's up, Mama Turf?
My aunt's in here, my little, and then all I'm missing is my sister, and then we'll be locked and loaded.
Hey, so about the soil test, so to touch on your point, I like to use the soil test as like a litmus when I haven't done anything to anything. So what you'll be able to do is every year that you take your soil test, you'll be able to understand what your amendments are doing. Okay, I added this much of this, I added that much of this over this much of an area. Okay, it had this kind of an effect to this area. You add that to the memory bank. So then next time when you're going to a new area and you get your soil test, you know how much you need to add over this certain amount of area or whatnot, so that you can actually have that growth that you want from the jump. And soil test, okay, the numbers, don't pay so much attention to the ppms and stuff like that. Pay attention to it, keep a marker on it, but just notice the change of those numbers. Don't try to put too much emphasis on, oh, I gotta have 900 ppms of calcium. Yes. You're not nature. You're gonna fail. Like, I've done it. Like, so
you're gonna fail. I love it. That's solid advice for sure. It really is. Using it as a litmus test, I'd have to say, yeah, that's probably the smartest way to use it. I agree, Q.
Yeah, and then even if you can know the plant science, like I haven't got my education to the level, even if I had a doctorate degree in agronomy and soil science, I wouldn't sit here and confidently tell you anything about the intricacies of how the minor works happens with something, because that's not our place. That's us boosting our ego when we try to explain something further than what it's been explained.
That's true. So what about us who grow in containers? Oh yeah, because Donnie, you're in containers and you were asking about the calcium. Listen, so if you are buying potting soil container mix for growing in containers, that stuff should come balanced. Like there's no need. I wouldn't waste my money on the soil test with bag soil. Bag soil specifically for growing in containers. What I would do is take notice to how my vegetables did using that particular brand. And if I was impressed with it, I would keep it. And if I didn't, I would change over to something else that other gardeners in my county are using. And a great place to figure out what the gardeners are using in your county is your local extension office. Yes, I'm beating a dead horse. So I wouldn't necessarily go testing that. Now, when you're gardening containers long term, that's when I think a healthy balance of some worm castings or some compost that you're able to do on site right there, some cold composting, hot composting, worm cast tea, layering that or inoculating your container soil with that consistently it reintroduces enough life into it to where you should be fine. And if you have issues on the long term, then you're probably just looking at a refresh issue, not necessarily a balance of nutrients issue. Now you can refresh it. Other gardeners, I refresh my soil all the time. I'll pull stuff out. I'll throw a little bone meal in there, and I do that based off what I'm about to grow in it. So keep in mind, like, I'll take something I knew what grew in it beforehand. I understand the science that I know that corn just grew in this soil. So I know that there is no more nitrogen left in this soil, if any at all, right? Because corn it's a heavy feeding crop that just sucks all the nutrients out your soil. I treat that soil that's coming from the corn, I treat it as it has no life remaining in it. And of course, when you start playing with soil enough, believe it or not, you can kind of look at it and feel it and see the kind of textures and colors that's going on, it lets you know whether or not it's full of life. And you can kind of look at it and see if there's things crawling around and moving around in it. The longer you do it, the more you kind of just get a feel for it, and you can kind of start eyeballing things, throwing things where you need them. And you'll be able to move a little bit more freely and not have to rely on the extension office. But it's the best tool in your toolbox, and it's free. You already know. Matter of fact, I'm going to take that back. The extension office is not free because you've already paid for it.
With your taxes.
You paid for it with your taxes. So I'm going to stop saying that today. The extension office is not free. You have already paid for it. And if you are not calling them, leaving them voicemails, sending them emails, then you are literally throwing away whatever percentage of your tax dollars got funded into that extension office. It is not.
Can I touch on something that Eco Neighbor said real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
So Eco Neighbor, he said, besides aeration, what do worms do for the soil? That just feeds directly into my next point, and it ties into the next point about calcium inside of containers. So if you have a worm bin, vermicastings, you take those and you're feeding your worms adequate amounts of calcium. So a little, this is like that, those gems of knowledge. So hold on to this one. Worms naturally inside of their digestive system release calcium as they poop out worm castings.
Yep.
And it's wrapped into those worm castings in a concentrated form that is available for even seedlings. So you have concentrated nutrients that you can now feed to seedlings. But the best part about these worm castings that you have built, you take you a handful and throw it on top of that soil. You now have because these pots typically have enough calcium in them already. It's about availability, like Turf said. So if you take those worm castings that you made and you put just a handful on top and you mulch over that handful, those microbes are going to go ham on that calcium that's non-available. And the plants are going to talk to those microbes and tell the microbes, hey, give me some calcium, yo. I need me some calcium. So when it does that, those microbes go into overdrive, pumping out those nutrients for the plants. And that's why the ppms, when you're talking about organics and you have your systems right, you really don't have to worry so much about that. It's just a litmus, like we're saying. But right. the worm castings, yes, outside of aeration, they also like if you're feeding the worms calcium, like which is in plant stems way more than milk and everything. So you're feeding them plant stems, you're feeding them leaves, you're feeding them all this stuff. They're just going to literally decorate your soil with available calcium, and then they're going to make the calcium available inside those pots. So there you go.
To his point, I was trying to figure out, so like when I did my worm casting test, I knew that I put a lot of eggshells in my worm castings, right? But I also know that it takes some time for that calcium that's in the eggshell to actually release in a plant in a readily available form for the plant to consume. So I was trying to figure out, so the soil test I did was supposed to show me what was readily available for the plant, not what was actually existing, but what was in a form that the plant
yes,
right? That's what that soil test showed me. So I'm like, why is this calcium so high? So I'm doing tests, I'm Googling it, I'm looking it up and I'm researching that. I stumbled across exactly what Q just said. Worms are automatically going to pump out so much calcium that your tomatoes should never have blossom end rot for the reason of lack of calcium, so to speak. So that's a great gem to drop there from our man, FarmerQ. So you're not nature, you're going to fail. I know that was funny, wasn't it, Donnie? Good information, guys. I'm not sure I'm smart enough to remember all this. Replay time. Thank you for sharing. Right. Hit that replay button, Anna, and hit the replay button. It's going to be here. I'm not taking it down. I garden in containers long-term, says Clausen World. I use worm castings, mulch. I add some specialized fertilizer also. I look at my soil like I see farmers treat theirs. Yes, and then we're talking about in the long term, right? We're recycling the same soil. And then Donnie said, my extension office is closed. Thanks, COVID. LOL, thank you for that, Turf. Listen, I don't know. So my extension office is closed as well, meaning I can't walk into there and get any help. But the website is still open. There's still people there collecting government checks, right? So somebody is answering something somewhere. That is state funded.
Yes.
They still getting the check. Somebody working somewhere, Donnie. So
hey, I just wanted to say, if y'all wanted to and this is just my nerdiness and me needing something to dedicate it to or push it into. I won't do this for everybody, but I know that just a few people probably would do it. But if y'all want to, just email me. I'll we'll figure out some way that y'all can figure out my email, check out my channel or something. And I will essentially put together you
we get you back. Is it my internet? What's going on? Okay, you're back. I think you're back.
Okay, we good? We good?
Yeah, I think we're good.
All right, perfect.
Yeah, we're good.
Well, just email me, and what I'll do is I'll just tell me your state that you're in and tell me your plant zone you're in. I'll put together like a little chapter list for you to kind of go over based off of your extension service that you can click on the link on the Word file and you can just go straight to the article and you can read exactly what you need to. Because that's what I did for myself. I made a master guide of about 10 chapters for my extension service of a specific part of that extension service. And I made clickable links so that I wouldn't have to navigate through everything. I can just open up my master file and I can just click on chapter 1, click on chapter 2, click on chapter 3, and then you're good to go. And it didn't take me very long. That's why I'm offering to be able to help you guys with it. But yeah, just reach out because that stuff is valuable. That stuff is what made me be able to get my organization right in my plantings. So it's money. That's money.
It's money that you already spent. You didn't have to give them permission because they already had permission when you paid your state taxes. So go get your money's worth for sure. I guarantee somebody in that office is working. It might take them a little longer to get back to you, but they still getting paid. They're state funded and sometimes even federally funded institutions. So go get your money's worth for sure.
Don't pass go without collecting $200.
Right. I need to get some worms, but I have to keep them outside. How? Connecticut, zone 6B. So being in 6B, that gets pretty cold. So you just need to be prepared. And this is me speaking, not having any experience in 6B. I tell you what, first of all, go to your local extension office. And ask them how other people are doing worm castings and if they're keeping them outside. And if they are, how are they successfully overwintering them? I want to say that the worms will probably burrow. Like if you connect them to your ground, they will probably burrow. The only problem with that is the worms that come back up, they might not be red wigglers. So there's specific worms. All worms will take care of vermiculture for you. But specifically red wigglers and European night crawlers, they don't get, European night crawlers tend to be a little larger than red wigglers. Red wigglers, they're skinny worms, right? They're not good for fishing. They're not fishing worms.
Let me add something real quick so that people don't just go buy some worms real quick. So I'm sorry to interrupt, I'm so sorry, but if you're in a northern climate, get European night crawlers.
Okay.
So the Alabama red wigglers are warm climate. But if you're in a warm climate, you can get Alabama red wigglers for the top application of compost making because they say in the top 2 inches. Get African night crawlers. Those things are amazing. Mm-hmm. They will go like 8 inches into the soil and burrow all that stuff up to the top. So having those 2 different kinds of worms, if you're in the South, are good. But if you're north, don't get African night crawlers. They will die. Don't get and then red wigglers, they might die. So just keep it. They have their conditional requirements. So yeah, just touching on it.
So boom, that I didn't even know that. And that's a huge gem for you right there. So I was telling you those 2 different types, red wigglers, Alabama red wigglers, European night crawlers. So European night crawlers might be the worms that you need being in 6B, and they might be able to survive the winter just fine. They might just burrow and come back up and get the munching. Now, when you start blending earthworms with that, earthworms do a nice job as far as vermiculturing that process, but they don't do it as fast. That's the only thing. So red wigglers and European night crawlers, they'll run through their body weight times 3 every day if they can. Your regular earthworms, they don't do good in containers. They like to be in the earth. Regular night crawlers, I don't know if they're American night crawlers and whatnot, but those jokers, you try to keep them in containers, they will come out.
They will, yeah.
Because they are night crawlers. That's their names. They come out at night and they wiggle. You can walk in your kitchen or wherever you got them, and they're going to be out on the ground halfway dead somewhere because that's their nature. They like to come out at night. So just be aware of that and definitely check in with your extension office. But you can definitely do it. You can.
Hey, I wanted to shoot you a little tip for your worm bins, Turf, because
what you got
this tip kind of helped my reproduction of my worm bin go through the roof. And
Okay.
I got this from an old time farmer. I was kind of skeptical about it, and I was like, let me try this out. So he was like, all right, instead of crushing up all your eggshells, crush up most of your eggshells, take about 10% of them and leave them halfway intact. So like you have like a cup, you just put cups kind of throughout your soil. And what the worms will do, they like, for some reason, they like to reproduce inside of those cups. And they also like to lay eggs inside of those cups. So they like to leave cocoons inside those cups. And they like to also breed inside those cups. And I've seen it myself. I literally put those in the soil. I waited a month, and then I just kind of dug through the soil. And I've never seen worms breed until I actually pulled that soil back. They attach to each other and they look all crazy looking. But yes, there was like every single cup that I had in there was like 2 worms in there doing their thing. So I asked no questions from that point. I was just like, hey.
So I'll tell you this, I've been doing that on accident.
Nice.
Because I rarely, out of laziness, I rarely crush down or blend down my eggs. I rarely do it. And I have seen them doing exactly what you're doing. Now, I'll give you a tip. Another thing that increases production of your worms is you starve them a little bit, just a little bit. Let them think that they're not getting food. So if you've been on a consistent basis of feeding them every 3 days, stop feeding them for about a week and a half, almost 2 weeks, and then go back in there and dump some food in. Your population is going to double.
They'll get voracious.
Because what nature does, we've seen it time and time again, even in our garden. When nature thinks it's about to die, what happens? It reproduces. It reproduces by the masses. So starve them a little bit, just a little bit, not enough to make them die, but just enough to make them think, oh, we're not going to make it.
What Turf said is exactly why your greens bolt.
Boom. Exactly. So the conditions ain't right. Oh, we about to die. We not about to make it. Boom. They reproduce. They send off the seed pods, and then they give you new seeds. They resell themselves. So yeah, works for the extension office. Clearly, I kind of actually do work for the extension office, Donnie, because I finished the test. I'm not done with my hours, and the reason why I'm not done with my hours is the pandemic. So like, my hours are gonna have to wait because my safety comes first. So we're gonna get to those hours, but I've tested out. I am apprentice right now at the extension office as far as a master gardener. So yes, I will definitely be pushing the extension office, and it's just a solid, reputable source of information. It's cool to watch YouTube. It's cool to see the people with the experience actually putting these practices into works. But your first stop should be to your extension office because it's specific area to your climate, your microclimate, your zone, your area. 8A. So I'm in 7A. There's someone in Pacific Northwest who's further north than me, who's in 7A as well. Or to Q's point the other day, his climate, what are you, Q? 8B, 9A? 8A? So you're 8A. His 8A is nothing like Led's 8A. It's nothing like that.
Oh man,
they're
dramatically different. Like
in
the summertime, you can't, you know how those calendars say, oh, like plant your corn in July outside. Oh, plant your outside. And if I plant anything outside in July, I'm coming back outside to black.
Smoked. You got to have your freaking screens hanging all over the place to make
by July, you got to have that plant density on point so that your soil temperature is perfect, because the plants, they can literally live in 110-degree temperatures, but what happens is your roots get blistered, and your stuff just dries out.
You said, so African worms are good for the desert. I haven't seen a worm since I've been here. Okay,
to Pitt's point. Yeah.
Tina, matter of fact, I think red wigglers would be good for you. And matter of fact, I'm going to send you some red wigglers. I got to send out some to Clausen World. So when I send some to Clausen, I'm going to send you some to, if you want them, let me know if you want them right now. We can get you popping on the worm. Those worms will do good in your area, and you don't even have to keep them inside. And Tony and Dolores, Tullahoma, Mississippi is in the building. Hey, how y'all
doing? Hey, but if you, Tina, if you get those worms, make sure that, because you're in, I consider a desert somewhat of a climate extreme. you want to make sure that whatever you store your worms in, the bedding is big enough, like you have enough bedding in there to insulate whatever temperature extreme that you have going on. So if you have for you personally, I would get like a 50-gallon worm bin, and I would essentially just make it a lot, like obviously make it heavy carbon material or whatnot, but get a 50-gallon worm bin, because when it gets super hot outside, they're going to huddle down at the bottom in the middle of the core where it's the coolest, and it's going to simulate the ground. So you want to just make sure that your worms can kind of have a what do you call it, a end all be all method or something. I'm not saying the right thing, but yeah.
No, I get what you're saying.
A last ditch method.
Yeah, last ditch man. Oh yeah, the Clausen said you don't plant anything in July. You can't get away with some eggplants and okra in July. I feel at least be able to get away with some eggplants and okra.
So I'll tell you what you can do in July. If you have your stuff established, you can take a younger plant that prefers shade, and you can plant it in the density of whatever you have going. And as that stuff dies back, it will pop out. That's what happened. So this kind of happened to my sweet potatoes. I planted
planting. That's called inner planting, right?
Yeah, but you make sure you also the space requirements, you adhere to those as well. But right. you plant the plant underneath the canopy of those other plants, and right as the plants are shifting to die or you harvest them, you're harvesting them as the perfect timing for the other plant to have full sun. And then the shade / partial sun that the plant's getting hardens the plant off before the actual full sun comes off into the plant. So it's just little things like that. So if you have enough density, you can kind of do interplanting, because the plant that you're planting in there's roots aren't going to get massive from the start anyway. So
right. Yeah. So pit stop. Yeah. So you want some worms? I'll send you some worms. Into Miss Crab Point, she said the 360 works great inside. Yeah, and that's why I have the worm. Actually, let me be honest. That's not the why. I would have bought the Worm Factory 360, but I discovered the Worm Factory 360 at my local extension office.
Nice.
And this is before I even had gardening on my mind. I literally got the Worm Factory 360 because it helped reduce the waste that went into these huge, what are they called? Garbage dumps, whatever. That's not the term I'm looking for. Whatever they call those big holes that they dig and then throw stuff in it. I'm at a loss for words.
Landfill or whatever.
Landfills. Instead of it going into a landfill, that's what happens sometimes when you took too many bombs to the head. Lose words. You can't do nothing about it. But
I only laughed because you laughed.
Instead of my waste going into landfills, I thought it would be really cool to just, reduce my waste. I had no intentions of doing anything with these worm castings other than probably throwing them in my flower bed at some point. I had no intention of doing the gardening. It wasn't, but later I found out that the benefits of something that I already had in full motion. But the Worm Factory 360, they reached out to me, Nature's Footprint. They saw that video, and I promise you guys, you never know who's watching. But they saw that video and they reached out and it was like, hey, we saw your enthusiasm over that system and we're going to send it to you. And they sent it to me and now I have it. And it's a bit pricey, but I would buy it with my own money. Matter of fact, when I move, I'm probably going to get more shelves. Not a problem. I will be getting more shelves. Because you can stack them up to 8 feet tall and I'll have a lot more produce I can throw on them when I move. So that Worm Factory 360, and listen, I ain't got no affiliate link. I'm not making any money. They're a wonderful company, wonderful family. It's a small owned business as well too. And then what's cool about the Worm Factory 360 is it's an American owned business. I don't know if it's manufactured in America, but it's a lovely company out in Washington. And the guy, he has a pretty good sense of humor too. So check it out. It might be worth doing for yourself. I'll tell you this as well. Don't put worms do not eat seeds. Worms do not eat seeds. So if you put fruits and vegetables in there with the seeds, and then you put your worm castings and you find yourself having a whole bunch of volunteers popping up all over the place, it's because worms don't eat seeds. They're not going to eat
so much with cantaloupes and watermelons.
Yeah.
Gosh.
I just saw somebody say cucumbers and it just reminded me, like I had cucumbers coming up for like, I don't know, man, like 2 or 3 months because worms do not eat seeds. Tomato plants coming up left and right because worms do not eat seeds. So keep that in mind while you're feeding your worms. They do not eat seeds.
Is that 360? Is that the one with the spigot on the bottom for the leach it or the
Yes.
tea? Nice, nice. That one's
No,
awesome.
That's not for the tea. That's for whenever you have too much moisture.
Oh, okay. So that's the leach it or whatever.
Yeah, it just runs off, and really, you shouldn't see anything coming off of that. If you do, it's just a high indication that you have way too much moisture.
Water. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's all it's for. It's just so the moisture drains off.
Have you ever heard of bokashi composting?
What's that? What?
Bokashi composting.
Bokashi. No, it sounds
it's
like
the type of fermentation. It's
permaculture is related. Like horticulture. What? Say that again one more time for the people.
I said, I had a brain fart. Oh gosh.
Yep.
What did I said? What did I say?
Fancy words. Horticulture. What did he say? People?
Oh, bokashi composting.
Bokashi. That sounds.
So you can take that leach
I met in the middle of Asia.
Hey, and that's where it comes from. It comes from Japan. So
boom,
you could take that, leach it, and you could literally start a bokashi fermenting compost bucket with that. It's a sealed composting process.
So what is bokashi? Is it the process, or is it the bacteria, or is it a plant?
So it's a bacterial based compost, but it uses lactobacillus as a primary form of composting. And what it does is you essentially you can take like meats, you can take like onions, whatever, like all the stuff you're not supposed to put in your worm bin, and you can essentially make a bokashi bucket out of this. Add the lactobacteria to this and make sure it's pretty concentrated when you add it. And you can also use like a brand that you've inoculated to actually add a solid form for it to kind of root better into that space. Mm-hmm. But you take all those materials, put it in a sealed bucket with that brand or with that particular liquid that you've drafted up with the lactobacteria in it. And it like you keep it sealed for like 2 weeks. Open it up later. It smells like a slight vinegar smell, but slightly sweet. And you can feed that to your worms as usual, and they'll just kill it.
Lactobacillus. That's what he's talking about. I know that is a normal flora. I'm not going to go there. But if you're a lab tech,
I know exactly where you're going.
You know, if you're a lab tech, and even if you're not a lab tech, if you're a female in the audience, lactobacillus is your friend, and I'll leave.
Oh yes.
If you do that research.
Growing something with Jeff. See you later.
Yeah. See you later, growing something with Jeff. I appreciate you stopping it. That is that is your friend. I'm going to start out with a worm bucket system. Hey, my little brother is actually and hopefully he perfects the system. He's taking Walmart tubs, because y'all know he don't like to spend no coin. He's taking Walmart tubs and he's drilling he's making a Worm Factory 360 out of $5 tubs.
I got a story.
That's exactly what he's doing. You got a story, and then let it play. Hey, a beautiful Nestie's in the building. Hey, how you doing, love? If y'all haven't checked out her soap, I need to put another word.
What's up? Oh, I checked out Beautiful Nest the other week. I subscribed to her channel like last week. Man, it's so amazing.
That soap is everything. Oh, she said she just purchased a bokashi composter. So okay, so I was the only one who didn't know what the hell.
Late to the party.
Yeah, I was late because I was like, but what? What do you But go ahead. What you got? You got funny.
Hey, so this is touching on your point about your brother making his own worm bins, because I am still like that. Like, I don't like to spend my money where I don't have to. I've kind of learned where my weaknesses are, so I kind of give and take with that a little bit more nowadays, and I'll spend a little bit more where I have to. But back before, I was like, I'm making this. I don't care. I'm making this. I can do everything. I'm amazing. I'm invincible. I'm making this.
Make everything.
Like, so I was doing that, and I made a worm bin. And so I just thought I was an expert on worms, even though I never had a worm bin before, because that's what happens when you're naturally kind of nerdy. You kind of start you
tinker with any and everything.
You get above yourself, especially as a youngster. You smell yourself way more than other people do as a youngster. I'm just going to tell you that right now. Obviously, y'all aren't youngsters. I'm the youngest person in here, probably, but I'm just saying. So, but yeah, I made that worm bin, and I was like, okay, I'm about to make this worm bin perfect. I get this badass soil and stuff like that. Excuse my language. I get all this. I get these alfalfa pellets. I'm like, oh man, worms are gonna love these alfalfa pellets. Oh my gosh, like they're gonna love this stuff. And I order those worms, and I put those worms in there, and I go. So at the time, I'm in college, and I'm in my 3-bedroom house that we're leasing out. And I have it on my carpet. I have the worm bin kind of on a raised platform on my carpet. And I'm like, oh, this is perfect. And I go to class, and I come back to my house. I go inside my room, and what do I see? I see my carpet now turn brown. My carpet is brown because worms are all over my carpet. Worms are in my bathroom. They're crawling in my bathtub. They are crawling down my drains. They are crawling everywhere. So I will tell you right now, before you put a worm bin in your house, get your worm game right.
Get your worm game right. What kind of worms were those? Like,
so those were Alabama red wigglers. I just made, so I put this.
Was it too much moisture? Because
it was too much. So what it wasn't too much moisture, but carbon to nitrogen ratio in worm bins is very important. So if you have too much nitrogen in your worm bin, you're not trying to grow plants. You're trying to grow worms. So if you have, you want to have a primary carbon base with a supplemental nitrogen base. So then like you're adding your greens to these leaves, you're adding your greens to these wood chips, whatever you have. So wood chips are kind of not, it's kind of, they're too much for worms. So yeah, you want to use like leaves. So you're adding to your leaves or whatever, you're adding to your straw, you're adding to all this stuff. So basically I just added all nitrogen. I was like, oh, I want to make some super soil. My worms are going to make the best quality compost castings that I can possibly consider ever making. So, yeah, my worms became the compost when they composted themselves and their crusty bodies all over my carpet. So
yeah. That's yeah. So that rate, I almost did the same thing. I got free grounds of coffee from Starbucks. If you didn't know, Starbucks, they participate in Grounds for Garden. Grounds to Garden is free.
Yes.
Pull up the Starbucks and ask for some Grounds to Garden. It's a program. They're all affiliated with it. You can get you some free coffee grounds for free from Starbucks. Just go and ask. You can even call in advance. They set it to the side for you. You can go through the drive-through and they'll hand it to you through the drive-through. Broke Farmer 76, he went and grabbed some from I think he got some from like his McDonald's or something. But
man, you know what?
They'll give them up. But I put way too much coffee grounds in my worm bin, and when I went in there, that is the only time. I think because you probably just scared about 10 people away from doing worm bins. The worms will not leave the bin unless A, your home is the same environment as your bin, meaning it's moist, damp, and rotting with a whole bunch of nasty stuff laying around. So, or B, you have way too much nitrogen in there and it's getting too hot for them to stay. So they have to leave. Because they die.
It's not about their diet. It's about the heat. Yeah. I'm glad you pointed that out.
Or C, it's too much moisture. So it's either too much heat or too much moisture. If it's too much heat or too much moisture, those bad boys are going to come out and they're going to try to live somewhere else. They will be like, screw it, I'm going for it. But if the conditions stay right, the reason why you go with red wigglers or European night crawlers over, I guess, American, we'll call them North American night crawlers. I don't know if that's accurate. I'm putting it out there. But our normal night crawlers like to come out at night. They by their nature, they don't like to stay confined in bins. Red wigglers, they're lazy, but they like to eat a whole bunch and poop a lot. So that's why they work out well in bins. Just so you guys know. Yeah, your husband would have freaked out. Yeah, my wife would have probably kicked me out if that would have happened.
So to your point, Turf, like kind of inadvertently to your point, you made me think of something that would really help with a lot of people's worms and containing their worms inside their bin. Like even if they had kind of too much nitrogen, they probably would end up with a situation where the worms would just die in the bin. But here's kind of a tip. If you can simulate an environment where the outside of your worm bin is extremely dry and the inside of your worm bin is perfectly on point, the worms will never want to leave that environment. They will literally be bound to that environment because the second they come out of that microclimate that you just created in that worm bin, they're like, oh, my skin is burning because it's too dry. It goes back into the worm bin. Goes back into the worm bin.
Yeah, that's true. Pitts and Gigi, y'all are saying y'all having issues with Starbucks. They're being stingy. They say they don't do that there. Listen, I guarantee you that's probably an ignorant millennial who is too lazy to go ask someone something. And one phone call to corporate manager will fix that real quick because goes right along with Starbucks' whole mission as far as being green and all this other nonsense. Make a phone call. Ask for the manager. They'll get their stuff together real quick. Because I blame a lot of it. I was talking to my aunt the other day. I say, listen, if you want to hire a productive worker out of this generation, go poach them from Chick-fil-A. All right. Now I don't go to Chick-fil-A every week or anything like that. But one thing that I do realize every time I go to Chick-fil-A is that their customer service is always consistent. I can't remember getting a jacked up meal. But if you go to some of these other fast food establishment places and they got teenagers in there who can just wear whatever they want, do whatever they want, barely even caring, halfway put the ketchup on whatever chicken sandwich you done asked for. Chick-fil-A has a standard, right? So the
Yep.
Starbucks, they have a standard. Call them out on it, call that corporate, ask for the manager. I am almost willing to bet, I will knock on wood here right now though, I don't think it's a participating type thing. No, they're enrolled in this program, grounds to coffee.
They get tax benefits from it.
Right, they get tax benefits from it. Make a phone call, ask to speak to that manager, call corporate, whatever it may be. Make that one phone call to get your free day on grounds. Now, if you figure something else out, that's fine. But that just irritated me because that's probably our lazy youth in the works right there too.
Oh yeah.
Too lazy to ask a question and figure out what's going on. Well, we don't do that here. I could just see it all day. Like that irritates me.
So to your
that's
point
Gen
about
Z.
Chick-fil-A.
That's Gen Z. My bad. Gen
Oh
Z.
yeah. To your point about Chick-fil-A though, so kind of touching on another subject that I feel like kind of is good to touch on, especially talking to our garden community, because we're a lot of artists and things like that. And I fell into this, I won't call it a trap, but I fell into this whole thing of just trying to just constantly give art and not placing value on myself. But I'm gonna refocus on the topic. I model my employees after the Chick-fil-A model. Like anyone who works for my business, I literally give, add value. And when they're ready to go, hey, deuces, hey, because they're going to tell everybody, they're going to be like, look, go to Lioncrest Outdoors Gardening. They literally gave me my platform to grow and to expand. And now they're the seed planting of what I am today. That's what I want to be able to build in people's lives. Like, I don't want to bind somebody through manipulation to my company, because personally, I want to run my company. I want to be the person that is in charge of sustaining the company and things like that. Obviously, you need to lean on people, and that's where you have your employees and y'all have a mutual benefit. Y'all have a mutual benefit to each other.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree for sure. So they told me to don't worry, but thanks, Ma. Thanks for the $10. I appreciate the donations. Gigi, she saw how passionate. I got mad about that. That really upset me because I just like, when I do step out, I usually regret it very quickly once I start interacting with people, because people will frustrate you very fast. Man.
So like, and it's a sad thing too, because it's like, we want to give and we want to share so bad. We want to add insight so bad because it flows out of us. It radiates from us. But yeah. So like, to your point the other day that you made on the chat, you were saying, oh no, you made this today. You were saying that you like to keep those walls guarded. I like to keep an open mind with a sniper at its highest point. I live by that, because it's like you have, like, you can't grow and learn without allowing everything to at least pass the first line of defense.
Exactly.
But you can't let it breach the inner barrier. You can't let it get to the Royals.
Right. Can't do it. Nazi, they did it to you too. So yours was giving away coffee grounds until the pandemic hit. Now they don't give them out. I've asked. Okay, all right. Listen, y'all about to make I'm about to make a public service announcement to Starbucks to ask them why they being sick. What else are they going to do with them? They're literally going.
Yeah, they're just going to throw them in the trash.
They're not reselling them. You know what I mean? Like, that makes no sense whatsoever. They're still getting the tax write-off. So I have an issue with that. You got to write a blog, Turf. You got to write a blog. Yeah, you're able to save money on your taxes, but you don't have to come off the grounds. And I guarantee you it has nothing to do with the company. It's the people. This is what happens when people they just mad. They just mad for whatever reason.
Because they don't want to go to work already, and then it's like you're adding something to their list.
Right.
You're just adding something to their list.
Yeah, like, so it's terrible, man. It's terrible. Hey, provide actual training, business standard at Chick-fil-A, and create that proof environment. People also need to care, value their work environment, performance. Yeah, but I have a strong feeling that certain establishments, they hold their employees to such a high standard that it's not even like, I see people come and go so quick at those type of, like, just your youth does not make it at establishments that have such a high standard.
Yeah. And too much responsibility.
Right. It's just too much. They put, like, for your average person, they just, you know, that's the type of person I want working for me. The
This
one that,
generation wasn't raised on a farm,
you know,
so
I
they
appreciate
don't have task
that,
allotment like
you know,
that.
man. But thank you. I appreciate the love, Eco. I really appreciate it. I leave my knowledge part open, and I get a lot back. That's right. Yeah, exactly. Turf. I got a little ignorance when picking up my free buckets. See, now I'm gonna go there and create a scene. Give me my free coffee ground.
Hey, our community has to claim that we changed it back to the right way, right? We got to be like the Grow Fam community. We were the reason that Starbucks gave back the grounds.
Right. Give us back our grounds, dang it. Well, you know, I went through a DD, you know, Dunkin' Donuts. I went through one of those guys, and dude, he just was like, he was so confused. And that's a whole nother animal. So I just was like, you got to make a friend, like Clausen said, or Gigi. You got to make a friend, and maybe they'll just start slipping. I don't understand. It's like the same premise of like restaurants throwing food away. You know, it's like, you know, you can't have this food. Like, why not? You about to throw it away, man. Like, I'm hungry. I'm like poor on the streets. You can't have it. I got to throw it in the trash. But that makes no sense. Like, some of the things we do as a people is just ridiculous. It's okay. Whatever. You know, we live another day to love again, I guess. But
oh man, and these big businesses, they love to use science to their advantage, right? So whenever you're pushing something to them that's beneficial, and oh, you're going to help nature by doing this, you're gonna it all they're hearing is, oh, that's money in your pocket. So when and then they turn it around and they're like, oh, we can't feed this food to homeless people because of botulism. Oh, we can't feed this food to homeless people because of the potential risk of liability to my business. Okay, well, you have them sign a waiver and you give them the food.
Give them the food. Like Clausen said, stupid. People are starving and they are following policy. That's right. Liability. If someone gets sick, yeah, have me sign a waiver. Put it at the door. I fill it out. I guarantee you, every person who's hungry will sign that waiver.
Man, you'll have to print new waivers every day.
Every day they'll take that food, and I think we would be better off along as people just by doing it. Hey, Renee's Hot Turf and FarmerQ just popping in to say hi. I appreciate you just popping in to say hi, young lady. I appreciate you. Before we go, because we've had the people here for quite a while, and I'm ranting. Y'all get me emotional about coffee grounds out here.
Hey, we're just bouncing off each other. It's great. I love it.
Getting emotional. But before we go, Q, you've hit on it a few times. I touched on it in the description of this video. You have a business, right? And part of your business is ensuring and making sure that we keep our community involved as much as possible. And this person right here, speaking on my point, I found this channel through Pete's channel, and I'm glad I did. And when he's talking about Pete, if you guys saw when I was in North Carolina about 5 months ago, I went and I saw Pete. And if you're not familiar with Pete, he's an amazing guy in the lawn care community. And what this guy makes sure that he does all the time is give back to his community. I've never seen a man so gracious in my entire life. This man, he lives by the letter. He respects, he fears, he's a God-fearing man. If you're not down with that, I apologize if I offend you, but nevertheless, it is what it is. He's a God-fearing man. And he's so much of a God-fearing man that we prayed before I left his establishment. It was the most interesting, most unique experience I'd ever had. But he was so welcoming while I was there. But it just struck a chord in the nerve in me, and it reminded me of what your message is as far as in your business. So I want you to give people a little bit of background on that, your end game, what you're looking to do this new season, this new growth season, and just what we can expect coming out of the Lioncrest Outdoors. And I want to know, like, where'd you pull that name from? So if you can roll all that one up and a nice
for sure.
For us.
For sure. Okay, well, I started the business so I started the business, which was Quint Landscape and Irrigation at first. It was unofficial. It was just like a side thing that I did. And it was 3 years ago. And at that time, I had just gotten my irrigation license with the state of Texas I worked with the city of Wiley at the time. And I had gotten with them, and I started off as a maintenance tech. And I was like, I walked up to my boss, to the parks manager at the time. And and it was a hard job. The first day I came in khakis and dress shoes, and they sent me out to a 6-inch repair in the ground, muddy, everything. And I was like, hey, let's get it. I took my shoes off and just got barefoot in there and got to work. But I gained their respect that day. And after I did that, I went in Brent's office. I was all muddy and stuff. I was like, Brent, I don't know anything about irrigation, but I'm telling you right now, like Matt told me about the irrigation license and I want it. If I work here for a year and I don't say anything about anything and I just work hard and don't complain about nothing, I want this opportunity. And he was like, hey, you got it. So on a year to that date, I went into his office and he knew exactly why I was in his office that day. He was like, I got it rolled up right here, and he paid for my trainings. And he was like, look, none of us in this department have passed this test the first time that we've taken it. In fact, most of the guys have failed it. And I just wanted to tell you that just so you can kind of be prepared correctly. And I was like, look, you don't have to worry about me because I believe this is part of my journey. And I've always been that kind of person, very spiritual. And right. And he just smiled. He was like, all right, let's see. Cause he kind of took that as a challenge to the department. Cause he himself had failed the irrigation test, and he's like the golden boy of the department. He's the parks manager. And right. I went and took that test. I studied every day that I would come to work every day early, an hour and a half early. And I read the whole book. They said not to study the book because it's not going to be on the test. I read the whole book, memorized every single definition, memorized every single term, like every single way to apply every single term. And I was like, I'll show you what's not on the test. And I went to the actual class. It was a 40-hour class in a week. We had to do an 8-hour design on the last day to have the permission to take the test based off of a 2-acre property. And I got done with that design with 5 minutes left in the day. So it was no pushover. Went to take the test. You have to make a minimum of 70 on every single category. Everybody typically fails the design. I made 95 or higher on every single category because I was not playing games. And this is where the
rubber met the road.
You read my mind. You read my mind. It is because it's like when opportunity comes, you got to knock through that opportunity. You got to take full force, full advantage of it.
It all the way down.
So that's what started the base of my business. After I got that license, I moved over to the city of Plano, and then I got with them, and I was an irrigation newbie. I was like, okay, I'm starting new again. So I got with this with my parks supervisor, who was, I'm not gonna mention his name, I almost did, but I got with my park supervisor, and he was like, I see you just got your license and everything. I met him a year earlier at the expo, and I was like, look, I'm gonna get my license. I haven't even looked at it yet, but I'm gonna get my license. I'm gonna apply for this position at the city of Plano if it's still here next year. And he just was taken back when I told him that because he didn't know who I was. I scoped out his logo on his shirt and I just went for it. I was like, let's do this thing. So I went to, and then a year later, I applied. I actually saw him at the expo again. I was like, I passed that test. What's up? And then the next day, Matt, he like, you don't know. Okay. So I said his first name, whatever. So the next day, he called me up. He was like, hey, we want to interview you. So I got with Plano. I worked with Jeremiah taught me literally the city of Plano has an agricultural irrigation system that spans over 3 districts within the city. I was in charge of a whole district. Myself, I was responsible for 45 parks irrigation systems. So I had to create a paradigm of maintaining these systems. And Jeremiah was the nerdiest guy ever. You think I'm nerdy? Jeremiah was like, I said his name again, whatever.
It's all good. Nobody knows.
Yeah.
That's the singer,
okay, yeah.
Right? Jeremiah, the singer.
Yeah, that's Jeremiah. It's your birthday. Yeah, whatever. So basically Jeremiah, he was not taking nothing. He saw something in me. That's why he went so hard with me. He taught me about motherboards, about how to because regular controllers, they have all the buttons and it's so easy to control everything. You can water this and everything. I had a motherboard with slide switches and wires coming out of it that I had to learn how to optimize and use my cell phone to now tune and program as an irrigator, as someone who dug holes in the ground. I'm like, wow. Oh, this is what this is about. So I'm like, let's go. In a year, mastered the whole system to the point where I applied for a programmer position, which was Jeremiah's position that he ended up getting a head supervisor position because that's what that position entailed. That's the responsibility level. So right. I mastered his position because Jeremiah literally taught me everything. And I applied for it, and I started to make people a little bit kind of apprehensive about certain things because my growth was a little fast. So I was like, hey, look, I'm totally down with being patient if I had the time to, but I got to do my own thing. So I left on June 19th. Juneteenth, boy. I left on June 19th.
Juneteenth.
started my LLC, and I haven't looked back since.
Wow.
That's kind of how it got rolling.
That's an amazing story. So now, how did you pick the name?
Okay, the name. Glad you brought that back up. So the name, Lion. Okay, let's talk about Lion real quick. So Lion, I'm a Leo. I got the locks. I identify with the lion. I keep my chill, but I'm ready to strike when the opportunity's ready. So it's just my spirit animal. I just roll with that.
Okay.
Crest. Crest. So Crest actually comes from my wife. So my wife is an Aquarius, and she, as y'all know, Aquariuses are water bearers, and we are very true to the aspects of our signs. So I really wanted to incorporate both of us into the business because it's our business. It's not just my business.
Right.
And I was like, Lioncrest is just so perfect. It rolls off the tongue. I can throw outdoors on the end of it. It kind of implies it doesn't box me in. I was like, I don't want to be just an irrigator. I don't want to be just a landscaper.
Right.
In fact, I'm re-optimizing my website to be more of a online sales and retail website, as opposed to, because I could just get irrigation. I get all my jobs from word of mouth. I had someone call me today. Hey, you help this person from blah, blah, blah. And I just want you to come and redo my system. Okay. That's literally 90% of my business. So I'm like, okay, let's optimize this website for something that I can have more of an online strength presence for. So that's just kind of how I started my name, and a little bit of the direction where I'm going with the outdoors gardening or outdoors kind of deal.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah. So his lovely wife, Tiffany has a YouTube channel. I guess FarmerQ would be in the same position as Eco Neighbor, where his wife's channel is better than his as well. No, I'm joking. Tiffany's, I'm not sure what her channel is about, only because because I've only watched a couple videos in passing, but I know what I've watched, I have thoroughly enjoyed.
You'll get a kick out of it.
It's like this vlog / like discussion board of her sharing just background on certain topics and aspects of her life. I believe her name is Tiffany Sherry. Yeah,
it's Tiffany Sherry on YouTube.
Sherry,
yeah, she's now pretty much kind of taking the channel direction into an actual set direction. She's now doing like it's kind of really deep. She's doing like psychoanalytical discussion points off of people who are in certain extreme niches and communities. I'm not going to mention any names, but it's about other YouTubers, and she gives the classiest way you could possibly break down someone's behavior, and it's groundbreaking. It's amazing because
it's dope. I watched a couple videos. The first one I stumbled across, she was sharing some stories of her past when she used to work at a adult store, and that story, what I literally laughed for however long that video was, like 16 minutes. I laughed from the beginning to the end of that daggone video. And then the other one, I can't remember what the topic was, but it's super, you know what it is? It is mentally stimulating. And if you are stimulating me mentally, I'm all in. So definitely go check her channel out.
So Tiffany, a little tidbit.
She's usually the first to comment on every single one of his videos. So if you just follow that link, that person to her channel, you'll find it. It's definitely worth checking out.
And I'll kind of wrap my stuff up with this. I'll just say this: like, y'all think that I communicate well, or if y'all think that I can say what's on my mind very clearly, very distinctly, it's because when you have someone like Tiffany Sherry in the house, and you have discussions with someone like that about what y'all are having issues with, you learn real fast how to say what's on your mind, or you get ran over. You get ran over. So it's like you have to, and this is part of any marriage, you have to evolve. You have to, because the old Quint, I was the mad scientist that unintelligibly walked around like maniacally just saying random stuff because I couldn't convey my ideas. She, as the way she put it, I was a dog chasing his tail in circles, and she put me on the straight line. And hey, I dig it.
Right. So yeah, y'all go check him and his lovely wife out. Yes, I saw someone earlier ask if FarmerQ has a channel. He does. It's Lioncrest Outdoors and Gardening. It is in the description of this video. My moderators have been dropping those links throughout this series. Hey, love notes, Welcome. Hey, how you doing? Thanks for being here. Q is not a Virgo. Q is a Leo, the next best thing to a Virgo. And the reason why the next best thing to a Virgo is because my mother is a Leo. So I came from a Leo. So yeah, I'm just catching it in Tiffany's sales. So Tiffany just popped in. There she is. I believe that must be, I think those last letterings are not, I don't think those are the same as yours, Q. So that must be the channel link to Tiffany's channel, but the Aquarius gang is going hard in here, right?
Oh gang. Yeah, so Eco Neighbor did post so that's the name of my email address, thesozifoppo@gmail.com. So my link to my YouTube channel is thesozifoppo. I'm working on changing the URL, but I've crossed 100 subscribers, but YouTube takes forever with everything. So I'm just waiting on them to
once we got behind the scenes, since you done brought it up, we'll tell the people in here live right now. So the people that are YouTube content creators as well, customize your URL. Customize your URL. Once you hit 100 subscribers, customize your URL. It helps with SEO. If you don't know what SEO is, it's search engine optimization. It helps your name get found. It helps when people look you up. They find you a lot easier, so just customize your URL. Once you get the 100 subs, go ahead and customize it because it helps you be found by people who are looking for the content that you are providing. So boom, there you go. He's already done it, so I ain't got to worry about it. And subscribe. There you go. Fake news. Okay. All right, guys. Well, we're not going to hold you here any longer. I will circle back, and I didn't know that Lioncrest had a website. I will drop that in the description of this video. I'll probably do it around the same time. Gigi, you still here? Send me the link to your Teespring, please. Send me the link to your Teespring and any other link that you would want me to incorporate in your live. As well as Beauty in the Garden. T, if you in here, if there's any links that you want me to incorporate in your live, send them over to me, guys. It just makes it a lot easier for myself, please. And,
so I have a question for you that I think that a lot of people could benefit from this question as they go through their journeys and grow and get to where they're going. So I was trying to consider whether or not to sell my merchant apparel through my website or through Teespring. What do you think would be a better option, especially at the beginning stages of merchant apparel?
So for me, I'll tell you this. Teespring is super convenient, right? You don't have to, there's low overhead, right? But you can't really control your quality, and it's hard to do quality control as well because you have to order the pieces and then get them in hand and then decide if you like them or not. I'd say if you have a resource, more specifically one that is local, because I'm all about supporting local businesses. If you have your hands on a local business to where they can print you a demo and you can put your hands on it, you can feel it, and you can run through the shirts and you can actually feel them. Like I'm feeling my aunt's shirt right here. And I'm like, yo, this is
that thing has some spandex woven into it. Like it's nice, man. Like
I want this shirt. I want my stuff printed on this shirt, but the thing with Teespring is it's all virtual. So then I pick a whole bunch of things and then I order $100 worth of my own merch and then I feel it and I rub it and then I'm like,
all right, Clausen, see you later.
So if you have someone reputable that's near you and you control your quality, go for it on your own website. If you don't really have the capital to put forth that overhead for investing in $500 worth of shirts and hats or something, and then having to offload them on your own, then I would say, go the Teespring route. But if you already have been dealing with someone local, you can support local businesses. If you follow a YouTuber that makes shirts and, I
didn't even think about that.
So support them first because small businesses is the bloodline to this thing we call America. Support them first is what I would say. That way you can control, you're feeding back into the community that you can identify the most with. And then on top of that, you can control your quality a lot easier as well. So I would go that route. And for the person that asked, customize the URL, what does that mean? It just means so once you hit 100 subscribers, at the end of YouTube, so for me, my YouTube channel is www.youtube.com/turf therapy. I was able to customize it to where it's just /turf therapy. Now, when you don't customize it, they give you QMP, LMX, LMNOP, ZY 223456. It has nothing to do with your YouTube name. But if you put your YouTube channel name at the back of that / that they have there, then what happens is when people search for your YouTube name, it just works better once the Google caterpillar crawls over that a few times and it gets it embedded in the search engine optimization. When someone comes to YouTube and searches for your name and you're a much smaller channel, YouTube will know what it's talking about because you've customized your URL.
And it'll start to rank you higher on searches and things like that.
And it'll rank you higher on searches as well.
So, well, yeah, and like
thanks,
so.
Austin. See you next time.
Oh yeah, but
yeah,
about the URL, before you change it, consider. I wouldn't say do this, but consider changing your channel name to be able to put the URL to be able to have it exactly what you want, because it's like you'll end up putting yourself in a position where you're unique, and then when your name gets searched, you'll basically be able to be uniquely highly ranked within that search term.
Yeah, they say hands off is best because you seem like a busy man, and y'all know he need about 4 naps a day. So that might be the best for him. Cindy,
I think you're right.
I appreciate you so much. She said, Turf, you've been killing it with these lives. Great job bringing us great info. I think I'm happy that you guys have been enjoying it. You've been getting something out of it. Listen, I literally put these together the past time because it gets really cold where I'm at, where no one's interested in their lawn right now. It's cold as heck outside. Very few people are still gardening in my zone right now. It's cold out there, but I wanted to bring you something that would be both entertaining and informative. So I'm really happy to see how this has gone. We still have a few more on the books to knock out before we get to spring. Matter of fact, my lives will be done probably mid-February, and we'll be back to our regularly programmed schedule. Y'all had me working all weekend. I done recorded about 4 or 5 videos. We started our moringa seeds. We're starting our angel trumpets. We're starting rosemary. I'm showing you how to do the cold stratification on rosemary. Although you didn't ask for rosemary, you actually asked for lavender, but I was like, it's a perfect situation to do the rosemary with them because they're both very similar and they're both very tedious on germinating, and they both should be started about 3 months before it warms up. So this is perfect. So I was like, I already have rosemary and I already have lavender, but I'm gonna show you guys how to do it. So I'm starting them both from scratch. So it's the perfect time to do both of them. And that video will be out in the next couple of weeks, and you'll still have plenty of time to get your seeds going. But if you want to go ahead and get them started now, take a paper towel, wet the paper towel, squeeze the excess water off of it, put the seeds in the paper towel, sprinkle them, at least 10 to 12 seeds of whatever variety you're doing, fold the paper towel up, put it in the sandwich bag, throw it in the fridge, check with me in about a few weeks. I'll show you what to do after that. So
I'll be looking forward to that. I'll be looking forward to that because I haven't germinated many herb seeds. I've gone from the actual smaller plants with the herbs because they're so finicky from seed.
Right. Yeah. They said Twitch, this content would do well on Twitch. Okay. I got to look into that. I appreciate that. Turf, you're going to be an arsenal of the gardening community, and only because of y'all. Y'all are making me an arsenal in the gardening community. You motivate me to continue to learn. You motivate me to continue to come on and do these lives, and finding wonderful people like you just keeps this all very exciting for me. So I appreciate your support. I appreciate you being here with me. And don't feel free to share information when you learn and share with me too, because I'm new. I'm brand new at this. I promise you.
For sure.
Half the time I'll be like, yo,
hey. Now that I know the door's open, I'll send you links. I'll email you. I'll text you stuff like that. Because I mean, the thing about it is like, I know that I can be overwhelming to certain people, so I reserve myself until people reach out.
Right. So I thought you was going a different direction with that, but I was like, I can be overwhelming to people in my videos too, because I'll start speaking in my little nerd language, and I'll just like, Rob, just dumb it down, man. Say it like a 5th grader is trying to explain, and I find myself getting lost in my own words. And then that's why I bring other people that I like, that I think do a very good job of breaking it down in simpler terms. And it's still very digestible and usable information. I bring you these people because I've been watching them, and I want you to be as successful as I am. And I'm not going to hold myself to the standard of making sure that I am the reason why you're successful. No, I'm going to share with you all these beautiful, wonderful people. Like I gotta go back to Paul Gudenjardning, 5 freaking A, growing citrus in his.
Yes, he's amazing.
Like, if you don't think you can do it, go check out Paul, send him some emails, reach out to the guy. He's a really good guy, man. He'll take care of you. Oh, wait, Saturday with Gigi. Okay. Our dogs are interested in making holes in our lawn. Well, you know, dogs to be dogs. That's why I let mine have the backyard. So they do whatever the heck they want back there. It's fun. I'm known to be overwhelming to people. Also, love notes, love notes. But love notes, hey, you're good people, man. Good help. You always around supporting. That's your number one fan. If you got love notes on your team, you're going to win. I promise you. She's going to make sure people know who you are if you're doing something worthwhile. Sylvia, thank you. I appreciate it. Paul is the truth. That's right, Eco. He is the truth. Just normal conversation reserved. Just normal conversation to me. TV. All right, people. That's it. You want to say the bye to the people one last time? I do this about 3-4 times before we get off.
All right, y'all. Hey,
let's say goodbye to them one more time, and then we'll get up out.
Hey, well, all right, y'all. It's been my pleasure hanging out with y'all tonight, and I can't wait for the next time we get on live and kick the dust up and have some discussion. And hey, man, I've enjoyed every minute that I've been in here, and it's been my pleasure, like I said. So thank y'all.
Cool, bro. Yeah, thank you for being here with us, Q. Thank you, lovely people all across the world, wherever you are, for joining us for these few hours and for a couple hours. And for the people that are catching the replay, I appreciate you watching this far. Since you watched this far, right? Y'all know I got to release who's coming out next. So I got some work to do. I got to go play Army for a little while, but I'll be back. And when I come back on January the 30th, I gotta find my phone. Let me find my phone. Aiden texted me. Oh, Aiden was in the chat. What's up, Aiden? I'm sorry, man. What's up, bro? We're talking about growing on things, growing. But let me look at my calendar. 30th, January 30th. We have the one and only TNOG. She's coming on, y'all.
Oh, nice.
I'm not going to tell you what we're talking about. I'm going to keep that a secret. You just got to keep an eye out on the community chats.
Cindy Davis, that's the New Orleans gardener.
That's right. TNOG, that is the New Orleans gardener, Lady 511. My Aunt Linda, my adopted YouTube aunt, the one that has the soothing voice. She got the pipes for you. Maybe we can even get her to sing a little bit while we live. You know, maybe I can try to harmonize with her a little. I don't really sing, but you know, I can hold a note every once in a while. So that's what we got coming on next, ladies and gents. I will save the topic of the discussion for a later date. Thank you for hanging around to the end to get that scoop. And y'all gonna love who comes on behind her, because you know them just as well. So you all have a good evening. Get you some rest. Enjoy the rest of your holiday. If you were on one here in America with us, y'all stay blessed. And thanks for tuning in for this little dose of therapy with me and FarmerQ. Y'all stay blessed.